Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Halifax Finance Committee. It is Monday, March 25th. We're being recorded by Area 58. On tonight's agenda, mail, meeting minutes, budget discussion, as may arise, public participation, and adjournment. In mail, we do have two reserve fund requests, which we'll take up now. The first is the amount requested is $3,130.29 to be transferred to law account 01151, present balance and appropriation $1,554.71. The amount requested will be used for payment of March 2019 bill for Labor Council. This expenditure is extraordinary and or unforeseen due to the following reasons. Extraordinary costs due to continuing court cases. And this was submitted by Charlie Steele. Charlie, do you want to?
And that's what's happened, and we ran out of money. One case that we spent over $40,000 on, most of it this fiscal year. Another one, most of that bill that I'm paying right now is for a labor case where we spent just $4,000 just in March, so.
Okay. Kathy, can I trouble you for what the reserve fund balance is right now?
Of course, it's $48,559.53.
No, I missed my poll. I just don't want to be on.
I'll entertain a motion and we can open up for discussion once we have a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further questions for Charlie or any discussion? Again, the amount requested is $3,130.29. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I did it twice and I've since deleted it both times, but that's, yes, 4.94 was the increase. And you're using, yep, that less the 3, less the 33, less the 101. Yep. The other thing we need to contemplate, which doesn't come out of that number, but is the warrant item for the resource officer.
That's right.
It doesn't come out of that number though, because it would still be taxed. We're not withholding the taxes.
It'll get calculated in the...
It'll affect this number here that we got from Sandy.
Okay,
Yep.
so, thank you. So that's, Kathy, you said the balance before was 48,559
Yep, 559.53.
minus, we just, it was 3130. So now it's about 45,429 in the reserve fund. So this next request, amount requested $5,285 even to be transferred to recycling center expense 66,433. Oh, sorry, I'm on a different one. The amount's $5,285 to go to recycling center expense 66433. Present balance and appropriation is $208.21. The amount requested will be used for C attached, and the expenditure is unforeseen because of attached. So here, I'll just pass, these are the multiple copies, but I'll just pass it so we can all look at them together. Sandy, do you have a sense of which of the following was sort of the most, which of the things that Steve indicated were sort of the most, the reason for the shortage?
So I did talk to Sue Johnston, and she said that she had originally asked for a higher figure in her budget last year, and it got cut back due to everyone having to watch their budgets. But because of the high cost of getting rid of the recyclables, the heavy, bulky waste, things like that, she's definitely run into a shortage.
Okay.
This is going to get her through May.
Okay.
And then in May, she's going to try to do a line item transfer from her trash disposal account.
Okay.
So, but she needs this just to get her to May.
Okay.
And this is the general reserve fund?
This is the general reserve fund, and we don't usually have to worry about doing it to an enterprise fund. If it was the water enterprise, they have a reserve set up.
Yep.
But the recycling has no reserve. At this point, we cannot do line item transfers until May. So she really has no choice but to come to you for a reserve fund transfer.
Boy.
Do you think it'd be worth it to discuss setting up a reserve fund for recycling in the future? Even a small one?
Are they just running an operational deficit?
Yeah.
Boy.
I mean, these are the bills that she's expecting to come in. I think she pretty much broke them down for you. I didn't see it,
Yeah.
I just don't have a copy of it.
Yeah.
We've known that the markets have
Right.
continued to deteriorate
Right.
since we did the budget.
And she knows what's coming in for April. She knows what bills she's going to be getting in. So basically, this is the situation she's in. As far as setting up a reserve, I think that it's really important for us to follow through with the idea of setting up a committee to look at this recycling operation, and if we're going to go ahead with it, and what we're going to have to do that. So.
Yeah, that's not good. If the taxpayers are wind up having to front bills for an enterprise that isn't used by all.
It used to be that it was a regular thing, that the general fund subsidized the recycling. That was years ago before we put in the recycling fee. Once the recycling fee went in, they were more self-sufficient. But because of the way that prices are going in that industry, and because she didn't get the budgeted amount that she had requested, then this is what she's looking at.
I mean, the requested budget amount would have been out of the retained earnings anyway, right?
Right.
So she wouldn't have made it even if she had requested the additional amount. Even if the additional amount had been approved from
Yeah,
retained earnings.
she would have had it.
From raise and appropriate though, right? Not from the retained
No, it would have
earnings.
been for retained
Or
earnings.
retained earnings.
Yeah, she would have had the money.
That's the source of their funding.
We still approve or disapprove of the return.
Their revenue and their retained earnings. But it comes through here, and when it came before the finance committee, it got cut.
If the finance committee would want to, we could have an article, the special, that moved money from the fund balance of recycling back into the reserve fund for the year we're in now.
That would be, yeah.
We're gonna,
Huh?
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's,
we're gonna slowly drain it, but, you know, if you're, it's a proper concern to have. But it goes right back to what Sandy said, long-term, we're gonna have to figure things out.
And at this point in time, she has no recourse. There's no way she can,
yep.
right now, until the special town meeting or until May 1st, when she can do line item transfers.
And we got a bulk.
If it was May 1st, she would just do a line
More
item transfer,
expensive.
but we still have a month and a half before then.
Yeah, which is, you know, shortly after budget season's over, I think that we need to think about getting that group together to look at
Mhm.
fees and, you know.
Well, I did send a note, in fact, to Steve and to Susan, saying that we're not gonna do this before town meeting, but you have a date that you'd like to do it after town.
Yeah,
So-
okay, that's good.
When was the last time we had to do this? Any idea?
That you had to do a transfer.
General fund transfer to the cover?
I don't remember
I
having
don't
to,
think it's
be
happened
honest.
since, yeah, I don't remember having to do one.
But I think, as Charlie said, the best place to fund, not through general funds, is through their enterprise account. So we have time to put that on the special. So.
Okay. Yeah, that would make me feel a lot better.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the amount of $5,285 to be transferred to recycling center expense.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. These all have to be signed.
Yeah.
I'll just pass it that way. That way it's no order. Because we'll just go sign them.
we have one set of meeting minutes from Wednesday, March 13th, 2019. Thank you very much, Kathy, for doing
welcome.
these. Does anyone need a few more minutes to review? They'll look at them still.
Just do a quick scan.
Yep.
Cruiser maintenance was 15 grand. Is that a typo?
Thought it was 10. Oh, in total, I think it was, yeah. I think it was a $10,000 increase. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because now we're gonna cycle, right?
Yeah, I think it was 5. I think they were asking for another 10. Or somewhere
Oh,
around
okay, I
there.
misread it. It says increase amount at 15. I thought it was increase amount of 15. It's a
No,
four-
it was
it's a
two-
four-
it was $4,000
$4,000. Okay.
215.
If everyone's ready, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written for March 13th, 2019.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Sure. I was only here for 30 minutes of that meeting. I did watch the whole thing online, so if you would prefer that I abstain, I'll do that. It's up to you guys.
Linda?
If you feel more comfortable.
Makes no difference to me.
Okay, I just didn't want to, have somebody get upset because I was only here for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine because you were present, even if.
And you watched the video?
I did watch the video. Okay.
All right, motion and second. So any other discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right, thank you again, Kathy. On to the budget discussion. So thank you very much, Sandy, for updating the sheets for us. We did receive the recommendation from the Wage and Personnel Committee for a 2% across the board rate increase. I'm just pulling up the spreadsheet here as well. Okay. So as you see on the top right of the summary page, we have the numbers plugged in for those increases. We still have, so I think what we were saying before was that we'd have to, just to sort of clarify the process, we'll have to vote on the recommendation from the Wage and Personnel Committee for the 2% increase, and then we'll still have to vote the individual lines, but Sandy's gonna just double check the numbers on those to make sure that we've got the right figure in them, because there might be things like longevity increases or stipends or something else like that that might make that line shift for each individual position. Does anyone have any, I mean, I can talk a little bit about it. Kim and I, the members of the Wage and Personnel Committee that are here, we can talk a little bit about, I mean, I think that we've been kicking around the idea of the 2% the entire time through the budget process, and that's what I communicated at Wage and Personnel too, was that I think we've all been sort of mentioning it, discussing it as a part of what we were thinking anyway. But this is also a separate entity that can take its own vote on it, so I just wanted to see if anyone else had comments or questions or...
So Sandy, the updated workbook that you sent out does not include the 2%, the assumption of 2% for the wage?
It did, but just in the total line.
So
Oh,
when
okay.
you look at when you look at the spreadsheet, the expenditure column
Yeah,
has not changed. I did not update that. If you look at the expenditure sheet, you'll see in columns T and U, I put in the 2% increase and the difference. So T, I think, is the difference between what was requested in the up to 2%, and then U has the new figure for the line. Okay?
Okay, you see it?
All right, so, but that is not included in the expenditure amount on the front page of on the synopsis page. Because you guys didn't vote it, so I didn't assume it. You will see on your synopsis page,
2,603.
Wait a minute, so it's not included in the synopsis
No.
page?
no,
Okay.
so when you look at the synopsis page, you'll see union articles. And so far, I've started listing what we know for increases. I thought it would spell it out there, but. So I know that the firefighters contract article will be 68,340. The police chief's contract will be 4,120. And the town administrator's contract will be 13,657. Those are the numbers that I have so far. So you see that in the, under union articles, that 86,117
Is this on the one-page synopsis?
on the page, yeah, the first page, up in this corner.
Okay.
You see it?
Yep.
All right, so those are other raise and appropriate expenditures. So those numbers are included in the expenditure number that's down here
Okay.
and reflected in the amounts.
Okay, so that was the change in this from the last version?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So let's quickly do some
And
math.
that's
if
not
we
even
could.
all the unions yet, so. So I'm showing that, leaving the 300,000 on the table, the 3,300, and the 101,226 on the table, we're still in the black by 64. That's without any changes, 64,221.05. That's without any changes.
64. Okay, did that change? The version I have says 69.
Oh, it may have. Yeah. Like I said, I've been updating things all through my spreadsheet, so.
Okay, what is the number?
64,221.05.
And you're also leaving 300 untouched.
Yes. Yeah. And that, I did increase the new growth. I went down and talked to the assessor this morning. She said her new growth is about 124,000 right now. So I put in new growth of 120 because it's not final. She expects it will go up higher, but, so I upped it a little.
Is that in here?
That's on the revenue page. If you click on the revenue page on that,
Yep.
I didn't put that up. You'll see up in the, when you're figuring out the levy, there's
Yep.
last year's levy, the 2.5%, and new growth.
And you said what is the new growth now?
120 should be in there?
It says 113 still.
Oh, all right.
So 120?
So that might be the difference. Yeah.
So the cost of the 2% for wage and personnel employees, and Sandy put in the email, is 50,603, and elected officials is 3,948. So. $50,603.
So we have, well, so I still have
But
discrepancy.
also, Gene, that might not, so that's for the 2% overall, but that might not include the actual increases when we total up each person's line because of stuff like longevity.
Did your updated number, your 64, because I just plugged the 120 in, and I get 76, so there must have been an expense that increased somewhere between this electronic version.
I'm not sure what it would have been at this point. So sorry.
That's all right, let me see real quick if I can find it.
It's a working document, so it's always in place.
Okay, it's the union articles.
All right.
86, 117. I have 62, 525, that's
Yeah.
close enough. Okay, so we have 62, 525, but there's a couple things that we're missing. What was the resource officer amount? Do we remember?
36,000.
36.
6. Wage and personnel's 54,551 all told.
Yep. Oh, where'd you get that number from?
I added the 50,603 and the 3948 from the email, the cost of the 2%
So
increase.
I have the resource officer included in that section. When you look down to Article 24, that's the resource
Okay.
officer.
On which one? Which page,
On
which
the
tab?
synopsis page,
So the source of that funding is raised and
Okay,
appropriated,
36.
not free cash.
Correct. Okay, so I don't need to add that. And we're still waiting the union increase, and there's gonna be a fluctuation on the wage and personnel, potentially, because it also doesn't include the one grade. Did the one position that had the grade recommendation change?
No,
We don't have a recommendation yet.
there's no.
No recommendation.
We're meeting Thursday.
I thought it was supposed to be last Thursday.
Yeah, but it's kind of complicated, and I don't know how much I can get into it, because that means that we're quorum with me sitting here, so
Yeah.
I can leave, so you can.
Yeah, I can fill everyone in if you want.
Yeah.
Not to kick you out. We'll call you back in.
Yeah.
Where's the 36,000?
Oh,
in
it's up here.
Article 24. on the
No,
top
I
right
just
side.
don't
It's
wanna.
up here, the top of the synopsis page.
Yeah.
buried in there?
Oh, no, it's right here, Article 24.
We were
And then
charging
the-
24.
the union
Yeah.
articles went up to 86, 117.
yeah.
Okay, so to answer your question, basically, we had concerns about having the position grading only being done by one member of wage and personnel because we've had turnover and like late additions and whatnot. So basically, I'm in the process of doing all the regrading for all the positions as well, not just for that one that there was sort of the grade disparity on. I did that one as like an external like validity check basically, but I'm regrading all the positions now. And then our Thursday meeting, we're going to compare mine and Kim's to see if like two independent raters came to similar conclusions using the same instrument and point system. So that's why the recommendations came out of Thursday night were for the 2%, but we can't make any recommendations on any grade change or anything like that because we want to bring multiple raters evaluations to bear on one meeting.
Okay,
And I know it stinks because that means that the finance
Yeah.
committee can't have anything printed in the warrant, or none of us can have anything printed in the warrant, but we wanted it to be as thorough as possible.
okay, so we're off by maybe 2,000 from Sandy's number, but it's pretty damn close, so I have 62.5 and change, less the 50, what was the wage and personnel, 54?
54,551. While you guys are typing, do you have any other questions about wage and personnel that
The
I can
2%?
answer? Well, any questions is just while Kim's out of the room. So when she comes in, then she and I can only have quorum again as wage and personnel. So that's why.
Can you discuss the 2% at all
Yeah.
together? Or?
Well, I think with her here, we have a meeting again. You know what I'm saying? All I can say is from my perspective coming out, so I'm the FinCom liaison to wage and personnel. What I expressed at wage and personnel was that it was a figure that we had been kicking around. It doesn't actually bring any employee up to the cost of living increase because of inflation and stuff like that. But I think the sentiment I expressed on behalf as a FinCom member was that we had been talking about that number kind of consistently. We hadn't proposed any other percent increases beyond that. We hadn't been talking about like 1% or 3% or anything like that. We had been sort of theoretically including 2% in our calculations. So I said that it wouldn't be a surprise if wage and personnel brought it back to FinCom. But the sort of sentiment coming out, again, this is my representation of wage and personnel, was that we thought that that was fair. And again, we realize that it doesn't actually keep up with the cost of living, but we thought that that was what the budget would be able to handle, being mindful of all the other expenses that we have.
Okay.
Melinda, you said 5603, and then you had like a 3,000 number to bring it up to your 60-something.
Yeah.
What was that
Mhm.
3,000 number for?
That's for elected officials, that's the number for elected officials. So we've got 5603 for employees and 3948 for elected officials, and that brings the total to 54,551. I can go get him. Yeah, no problem.
I'll text you if you want.
Oh, thank you, that'd be awesome. Your kids and your phones. All right. I don't know what number.
Okay, so 62.5 plus the 54.5 leaves us about 8,000. We don't have the rest of the unions,
Correct.
and we don't have any, we don't have an estimate on any fluctuations for any other recommendations from wage and personnel if there's grade adjustments.
Nope. I did communicate to both of the school committees about the votes that we had taken. Again, that they're not, that we're still in flux of looking at the budget, but I did communicate to them because the tape from last Monday's meeting wasn't out yet as of this weekend. So I wanted them to have a heads up that if they wanted to come in tonight. I think Silver Lake actually meets tonight, so I don't think Gordon could have been here anyway, but I just want them to know that, that had happened in case they had any questions or wanted to be in touch, because so far, again, we still have votes to take, but so far those were the only budgets that had stuck out as the ones where we were going to recommend a different amount than what had been requested. I know we're still going to have to make decisions tonight, but I wanted them to be as caught up as we were, and because the tape wasn't public yet, I did reach out to them.
I did go home and watch HGTV. It's so much fun.
Okay.
And we also haven't, right, so Sandy, this analysis page does it include the requested additional personnel from highway?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
And
municipal.
municipal. Okay. Yeah, right, because that's in the spreadsheet, okay. So we can hold a vote. I'll entertain a motion on the 2% wage and personnel recommendation, the 2% increase, across the board increase for employees based on the wage and personnel's recommendation. So we can have a motion second, then we can continue to have discussion or ask anyone questions after.
Remind me, the numbers here already include the step increases?
They include the step increases, yes.
Okay, but they don't include the grade,
They don't include any regrading, no.
any regrading?
And there's union pieces missing.
Right, we haven't even started with the highway, we won't see them until next week, just to begin with. Patrol officers we're nearing, but we're not done yet. Firefighters, obviously, we've talked, and we're set. And then, patrol officers, sergeants were almost done. Patrol officers, it's a wages only. We made an offer, I think it will be accepted, but I don't have something definite at this point. It would be what you think it is, let's put it that way.
Okay.
You're the trend.
So the grading, you might have said this already, Melinda, but the grade increases, or the grade increase, is that just a change in the rate per grade, or is this going to impact?
Oh, no, there's one position at this time that's being looked to be put forward for reclassification.
Okay, and does that,
That would be put up a grade two.
That you know of, like you know.
Right. At this time, that's all that we know.
So we have essentially we don't have complete data yet on the grade classification stuff. So wage and personnel can't make any recommendations about that yet.
but it's only for one role?
No.
That is not yet
All right.
determined.
Undetermined.
Misspoke. At this time, it was all that was being considered, but we don't know for sure. So,
So is the 2% on top of the grade change number, or is
Yes,
it?
so the grade, sorry.
go ahead.
You can do it either direction you want. The position moves up. It moves up to grade X. if you're increasing all the wages by 2% across the board, that grade X will have moved up by 2%. The position will jump into that grade.
This is what I would do.
Okay.
And we don't need to get into a big discussion, but what's before you is what's before you. And then whatever that other board does, they would have to amend anything on town meeting floor, and you would have to recommend it.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, before the amendments, they'll bring in Article 2,
Right.
and then what will happen is, as Kim just said, right now, that amendment is going to be listed, Finance Committee recommendation at town meeting.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm trying to,
Because this is going to print after,
This week.
After Thursday night.
yes, but you won't be meeting before that. So I would just go with what's before you, and then anything else that comes before you is in isolation and to be made the decision based on what's left.
We did post a meeting for you for Wednesday, just in case tonight doesn't get everything wrapped up.
okay,
Just in case.
But you-
okay, so then all that's before us, Kim, is the 2% across the board?
Yes.
Okay.
You want my rough math?
Yeah,
We're 67 in the hole. That's my rough math. I might pad that a little more to 70. If we're withholding our solar field tax, our 300 and the scheduled fire suppression.
Yeah, you're the document.
67 into the 300,000 cushion,
Yes.
67.
so it'd be 233 left.
But remember, that's also assuming that town meeting votes to approve the resource officer and the full HES budget. Both of those together would be about 63,000. We voted those less about 63,000.
Right.
For 64,000. But we're assuming that they get voted in.
Does this have the less
Yeah,
on,
2%. That's,
does this have the less on the school budget in here? I don't know.
I have I think it should. Sandy was updating the.
Wait, wait.
Sandy, do you know if this, do we have the recommended amount for the school budget or the requested amount?
I believe I put in the request, I put in the recommended, what you recommended, I believe I changed it.
Okay,
Yeah.
That was,
so we've
you
already,
guys have a note on it?
Well, we were just talking so the synopsis sheet basically takes into account, like assumes that town meeting votes for the resource officer and the full HES budget,
that's not true. If
which
the,
we didn't recommend.
If the recommended-
That's what the synopsis sheet.
Right.
well, not if you've adjusted the expense for the school budget less what we recommended.
Which is the half
Half
of us.
30,
Yeah.
what, 32 or 3,000, I think it
So
was.
so your spreadsheet does not include the half bus, and you're
Right.
right, like you should kind of make sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't include the resource officer, which you're not recommending.
Right.
It does include it.
It does. I-
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Because
Yeah,
that's
it's-
probably more likely to pass.
Well, if it's more likely to pass, then we're in the right to keep it
Yeah.
as
So-
expended.
What we recommended was, for elementary, we recommended 5628355.
Hold on.
5628355, that's what I have in there.
Okay.
Okay, so my math stands then.
Yeah.
If the warrant officer is likely to be passed, then we've reduced for that, and then we have the savings. So with the savings for the school bus, we're looking at a $70,000 deficit if we want to keep our $300,000.
Deficit.
Where are you getting the
No,
deficit?
that's a bus number.
But
We-
he's saying from the
Into the
300,000 cushion. Like,
cushion.
we're cutting into the cushion now.
Can I answer? So you took the 64 that I have on mine, you say 62, and then you took out the 54 for the 2% increase for wage and personnel.
Yep.
And you took out more for the contracts that we haven't settled yet.
Yes,
That's where you're getting the
Yes.
deficit. I understand.
correct. Yep.
Not for the unions that haven't settled.
I can go from 67 to 70. No,
$3,000, well,
that was quick.
that's a drop in the bucket. That's a pretty small cushion, really, in the world of finance. I mean, that's just the round number we probably need to shoot for if we're going to withhold the 300,000. Because I'm guesstimating for the union piece, that's unknown. I could be low.
So I think,
How did you get this?
I mean,
62525? You got the 69,182?
Yeah, that's, so Sandy had upped the revenue for the growth to 120. And then,
I think your union articles may be different. I think
yeah,
Bill
the
may have
union
a little
articles
more.
went up to 86.
So I adjusted this to 120, did that?
It's the wrong, it's the cell to the left.
Oh, that's why.
I might undo that, but I would put that back to 113 in case there are any downstream formulas. And then if you go back to your synopsis sheet at the top right for union articles, it's 86,117. Row 5, 4, 5. 86,117. 62,525, that's right.
So we currently have a motion and a second, right, on the 2% for wage and personnel.
Can I ask a stupid question? Since this is my first time ever doing this, where do we go from here, basically?
So I think, I mean, there's multiple like paths we could take. One thing I was thinking of is if we vote on what's in front of us tonight and just get as clear of a picture as we can based on what we actually know, like this kind of stuff, and then start considering going through and re-voting lines that we've approved increases for and having like the kind of tough discussions, knowing that the picture's not entirely clear yet too, right, with the rest of the union stuff and with anything else that comes out of wage and personnel. But I think we need to get it, I mean, this is just me, so if anyone else sees a more workable path, yell at me. But I think if we go through, vote what we have in front of us tonight, and then get a slightly firmer number, and then start working backwards from there.
My only issue with that is that if we do that now, we're essentially printing things that we are inevitably going to change if we stick to the 300.
Well, and maybe we should have a philosophical discussion about the 300. Because if we're gonna work the rest of the budget all around that, like if we're gonna do all the work to work the rest of the budget around the 300, then I think it's worthwhile to talk about that before we do all that work.
That makes sense to me. It's fine with me.
All right, so do we have a motion to, do you wanna call, so I can call the vote on wage and personnel now, or we can table that motion, talk about the 300, and then come back to the wage and personnel recommend.
I mean, I would table it, but if
Yeah.
it benefits us to vote it, we can do that. I don't know what the benefit is if we may have to revisit it personally, but
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, this is my first time ever doing this, so.
Yeah. Well, I think
prefer
I think like with everything else, I think if that's a chunk of the picture that would help us, maybe let's vote it, because like we said, with all of these lines, we might have to go back and re-vote, but let's at least maybe, the more that we vote, the clearer the picture gets, and then we can make decisions from there, so. But then, I think then, if we want to hold the vote on the 2% first and then have the discussion on the 300,000, I think that's a worthwhile endeavor.
Okay.
All right, so any other discussion on the 2%? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Was there a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah,
there
there's already
and a
motion,
second.
seconded.
Okay. I
Yeah,
forgot.
so I'll call the vote again. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, so, the $300,000 cushion. We've been working around the number the entire time.
Yep.
It's been a policy for the last few years, right, so that we can assure the taxpayers that we're not taxing up to the levy. But I think it's, well, what does everyone think? I guess?
I personally will be damned if my first year of finance committee, I do not recommend the 300, which has been in place for a long time. I mean, last year it was recommended, and they ended up cutting school books, textbooks for school kids, so,
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing we voted against thus far, what is the school bus? We haven't voted against anything else.
We
in the-
voted against a resource officer too.
Well, no, aside from the warrant articles, that one
Yeah.
is different because it was raise and appropriate for that
Yeah.
matter, but
Yeah.
we haven't voted against anything except for the school bus. So I think it would behoove us to go back and take a look. I know there's a couple of increases on the board. We did police and fire really fast and early before we did anything else. I think it was the first two increases that we looked at, so maybe we revisit those. But that's just my opinion, because right now, if we spend up to the levy less our withholds that we talked about, we're looking at a 5% increase. So I'm as comfortable as I can be recommending a 5% increase.
Yeah.
I don't want to do any more than that, especially when, like I said, the only thing we essentially sharpened our pencils on was the school bus. Thus far, anyway.
Yeah.
I know
yeah.
there's a few lines we haven't voted, but
Well, no, and I think all of us were sort of saying like, okay, because we didn't have all the information, so I think that has been our process, was sort of like, okay, let's approve as we go, knowing we may have to go revisit everything all over again, because things were constantly sort of in flux. I don't know. I'd philosophically like to leave the 300,000 in play, or a cushion. You know, I don't know that there's a difference between leaving 250 and 300. I know numerically, obviously, there's a difference, but if eating into it a little bit allowed us to maintain services to the town, critical ones, if we got to a place where we couldn't make any further cuts and it was a $250,000 cushion, let's just say, I think then if we had done all our due diligence and really gone through every line and couldn't find anything else, then I'd personally be fine with vouching for the fact that we turned over every rock that we could. Because last year we did make a lot of cuts, and now we're seeing sort of the backdraft of that is that departments are now having to ask for stuff that we had to, like the school, we had to push them to cut on last year. So I would like a cushion. I'm less fixated on a particular number, but I completely understand, and I agree with you, Len.
I like the cushion too, but to the point where I'm willing to go in a little bit, especially if it's like they're voting for stuff that we didn't recommend. You know, if we're not recommending it, we're trying to look at a certain number saying.
yeah, well, there's
recommending it.
nothing.
If they want to go in and say, we're going to spend $36,000
Yeah.
for a resource officer, then I don't have a problem.
No,
giving them
I don't either.
$36,000 on the levy.
Yeah, I don't either. But once we get there, it would. If they decide to do that, that's on the town, and that's no skin off my back. That's the town. But yeah, that's. I mean, that could happen anyway. What the hell's the difference? I guess, right?
Well, but I think that's a good point, a good thing to consider though. If you know, we're going to make our recommendations as a people who looked at the budget, right, and sort of advising the town. If we think though that town meeting is going to vote a particular way, then I think.
Oh, that's a pretty dicey.
Yeah.
You
Right.
just never know.
Right, and it's also hard too because then our recommendations on the floor might change on the fly anyway, right? If we see things shaking out a particular way, and there's stuff that we haven't made recommendations on, or someone moves a change to an article that changes the dollar sign on it, then
What did you get for the net number?
With my own assumptions,
Yeah,
67.
from 300 is 233, 232, 975.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, that's a pretty waffly number there.
Yeah. I'm missing something on,
we also haven't.
missing 40,000 on mine.
I feel like there's other stuff that
It's just, you have the 62.5, right?
Yeah, I do. I have the 62525 plus that, plus that.
What's the 192?
Just a calculation. It's the sum of those three.
Where's your net?
It's right here.
Oh, you're backing into the,
Yeah, I'm backing into it, yeah.
what do we want to do? Do you want to discuss the two personnel increase requests from highway and from building maintenance?
Yeah, I think, maybe let's start triaging the bigger things. And then, like you said, then go to fire and police, because those we had kind of voted on early. Yeah, Charlie?
At some point, I don't want to keep Caesar here forever. We want to talk a little bit about the down process and budget.
Oh,
because we had gone over it
Is it going up?
again.
$100.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Sorry, it is funny, but that's what it is that
Not April Fool's joke.
I don't, right now, Sandy thankfully has been plugging in $100,000. Right now,
Yeah.
my number is at 106,330, and I'm still dropping stuff out that probably we should be doing, but given the budget situation, the 106 is where, if you do drop something out of the 106, then I start running into, okay, you're asking me to not come up with any nightmares. Because, I've decreased the equipment purchases and such, things that I can vary a little bit. Things I can't are having Caesar here, paying the Comcast bill, paying the financial software, paying for backup, paying for antivirus. We need to run the email subscriptions. If we want Caesar to be able to provide remote support, he's only here 25 hours a week. And there are times when people are going to need remote support. We have to have software for that. You have the equipment purchase. I have a little bit of money for outside assistance, and then a couple miscellaneous things, but it's, it comes out to 106 instead of 100. I'm happy to, and Caesar has more details about each of the pieces of the budget. What we're not doing, including in this, is we give up on GIS for the year. There's a couple of pieces of software for assisting users in getting passwords set and such that we'll give up. We have 2 tablets that we're going to be using for outside work, basically connected to GIS type of opportunities. We're going to have to do a data plan for that. As I said, we won't get this, we'll get the bare minimum, set aside the bare minimum for equipment purchases for this coming year with the hope that we don't have a number of breakdowns. We try and cycle computers and such in and out on a regular basis. We'll just, be a little bit of a downgrade as the number of machines we're going to be purchasing.
Okay, so what was the amount?
106,330, call it 331.
so that's line 15 data processing, the new amount 106,331. I'll entertain a motion on this because then we can open it up for any questions anyone has of either Charlie and or Caesar. So again, the line is 15 data processing. The requested amount is $106,331.
What was the number again?
106,331.
331.
Line 15.
I'll make a motion to approve to start discussion.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Okay. So any questions for Caesar and or Charlie?
Cemetery management software, is that the fee that you're paying every year?
That's for the annual support and maintenance if they need annual reports. They just got it this year, actually.
That's that access database I saw?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I could have built for them.
We could have done it too, but limited resources.
But so we pay $500 a year for that?
Yeah, truthfully, I did ask the question if we did need some, could they just build it, give it to us, and give us the access to maintain it thereafter? But they said no.
Is that what they said, huh?
Yeah, I said, personally, if you ask me, I don't know how you can make a access application proprietary, but I didn't feel like getting into that.
Yeah, I could have, I mean, I looked at the application, I can literally hack into it in a second because it's an access database. Then you could do whatever you wanted to, but since it's proprietary software, you obviously don't want to go that way. But my point is, we could probably replicate the same functionality.
Yeah,
And again,
and I think maybe down the line,
yeah,
we can work to build something on our own.
Right.
But I think to
Yeah.
get something there, just right now, for them to do what they gotta do. and-
I agree. I just wanted to point out to you, we might want to get together at some point and deal with this so that we can
Yeah.
get that off
Hopefully that.
ourselves, because there was a number of things that Steve was pointing out that he would like to have, which, like asset management, maintenance. There was one thing we were talking about, like, keeping track of, like, the times that they were filling, like, which road had the pothole filled on which date, so that you could better calculate the actual expenses per road, that sort of stuff. That's all stuff that I'm capable of building access databases.
Yeah, and part of that, which I believe, which is not included in that number that Charlie gave,
Yeah,
which is one of the items that we're thinking about cutting, is GIS services.
right.
We got a grant to get the GIS services, to get it implemented, and thereafter that was $7,500 a year to maintain the system. But we haven't limited maximum limit users. We're looking at another system, but it costs just the same amount. Just because of a indifference of opinion with the current vendor we have.
Yeah.
But that system was gonna allow us to do our stormwater management and assessments for the highway department, as well as help the building department, planning board, review, properties, get proper information, be a resource to the residents, as well as for the board of health to use the system for inspections and actually visually map out where the inspections are taking place. And obviously, we had it for about 2 years. We've had to get on with it. Like I said, it's hard to spend.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like changing any of these numbers.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, there's things I think that you and I can do, as I'm a computer programmer and you're the IT guy, that we might be able to do for the future to lower our overall costs. Because I'm sure you're capable of maintaining an access database.
We actually looked, that was one of the first options,
Yeah,
and we looked at it, but I had too many other things to
right. And
focus my attention on. I didn't have time to build something
Yeah.
from scratch.
Yeah, and I completely understand, but I did have some concerns with it because, again, it was running off the network and it was taking literally about a minute and a half to open it before they could even do anything. So when they have like somebody on the phone, they're wasting the time. Not to mention that kind of setup, I've seen that before. It's ripe for corruption of that access database. So I'll just point out that I'm willing to work with you in the future
Yeah.
to take care of some of the IT stuff.
For as scared as you made me at the beginning of the conversation, I thank you for wanting to help.
Yes. But that doesn't change this number now.
I understand.
Yeah.
But what's the difference, 129,655? Charlie was trying to go to 106.
So what we would take is, we take out GIS services, we take out the management suite, we take out the data plan for the tablets at 2,000, we drop additional equipment by 6,000, we drop outside consultants by 2,000.
And if you guys want to go into detail of what managed engines like next, Charlie can explain it. Pass it off to the doctor.
Caesar, on the last page for miscellaneous equipment, I'm following the sum to the 8103. I get the 8200, but how'd you get to 11,000?
So if you look where it says unplanned or as needed purchases include whether a monitor breaks, and those are like $200 a pop. It's right above that actually. The four bullet points, so the four numbers right above those totals. It'll say, printer replacements, computer peripherals, or anything that may need to be purchased out the year that we don't necessarily plan for.
Okay, so these don't have individual numbers, it's just an estimate?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like I said,
We know things break.
exactly. The 5 computers,
So what's in the budget now for those events?
I think we have a line like $5,000 for equipment. But like I said, the computers are about $1,000. Well, they're about 700 and change, 765, I think, so we got the quote for just recently. It says it right up there. So we budget about $5,000 to replace, or try to replace things that are broken, or when things need to be replaced on an annual basis. I was able to get the computer replacement schedule for 5 a year. So my hope was that if I can put it in the budget, that way I know it's there, and every 5 years, every year I can replace 5 computers, because we got on a cycle where this is actually the last batch. So the next batch, that next year, or beginning batch of this cycle, actually starting to be replaced. Now it'll be 5 computers thereafter. What we've been doing is with pretty much the, let's say at the end of the year, we have $6,000, we say, okay, we'll take that $5,000 and buy the 5 computers a year replaced for this year. But like I said, in times where we have to make unexpected expenditures, we don't have that peace of mind where it's like, okay, well, this year we're not going to replace anything, we're going to be a year behind our schedule. So if I can get it in the budget and guarantee that I'm going to have X amount of dollars to put towards the replacement of the computers every year, I know that I at least have some other wiggle room to buy things as they break, as opposed to taking that $5,000 and using it for both. Because then we might end up in a deficit, depending on how many things break. And those laptops, like the only laptops we have in town, except for the town clerks, which might replace next year. But those will be replaced every 5 years, just like the desktops, depending on use. So that those laptop costs, I probably wouldn't have to put in the budget next year, because they're going to be replaced. And then for next year, I'm hoping to get rid of our Office 365 government subscription. We have a new account that we actually get for free because of the library. Thank you, Gene. So we were able to license Microsoft Office under our library as our licensure. So I can actually get rid of that $1,900 next year once I get the backups. Once I get the Office 365 backups, at least have it. Right now I'm doing it manually. I'm taking an Outlook file, backing it up, and then manually inputting on emails. But for 50 plus users, it's kind of difficult to do it every single day or every single week. So to have peace of mind, once I have the backup platform for Office 365, which is also something we need to have for legal reasons as part of our 7-year retention policy by the state of Massachusetts. I'll be able to get all those accounts migrated over the next year, and then come next budget season, I'll be able to get rid of that cost because all the accounts are migrated.
Is there any other questions on line 15, data processing?
So this is the full budget for,
This is everything that we have and we're looking to add. The number Charlie gave you would be cutting out the managed engine suite, GIS services, taking off, was it 2004?
We take 2,000 out of the outside consultants,
Yeah.
we take 6,000 out of the additional equipment, no data plan for the tablets, management suite, GIS services. So we'd be taking, there's 23,500 that I'm cutting out. Here it is.
Any other questions?
I don't know, this is out of my out of my league here.
Your biggest driver is that it's not for municipal management, it's not for $34,000.
So we had these last year, right?
So the additions that we're adding are the Barracuda Office 365 Essentials. So the antivirus went up. We had to change the licensing for that. We also got antivirus software and licensing for our servers as well. The Sophos firewall licensing is an addition. That is because last year we got the network refresh approved at town meeting, and the first year licensing was within that capital project, so that was not in our operating budget. The Bongar remote support is a little bit of increase. Last year was logging in. It's like, I don't know, maybe a $200, $300 increase for a different product. Obviously, miscellaneous IT equipment went up from $5,000 we budgeted last year to this year, trying to set a consistent number that we have room for unexpected purchases and then planned purchases as part of replacement schedules. Cemetery management system's a new one, and the managed engine management suite's also a new one, and so are the data plans. And then the web server hosting, that's somewhat of a new one. It's just a HostGator account we host our help desk on. And that's where our domain is hosted and DNS managed.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Okay, so again, for line 15 data processing, request amount of $106,000 and 106,331. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining?
I'm an aye.
Wait,
I'm just delayed.
okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Caesar. Sorry for keeping you late. All right, so let's do positions, the additional positions first.
Where is it?
I'll let you do it when you come.
I'll be here tomorrow. And then from there, what are the solutions that doesn't work to me?
Yeah, let's do that. I fixed my own printer today, Cecil.
What?
I fixed my own printer today.
Yeah.
You missed the conversation before we started.
That used to be the number one thing that bugged me the most.
I was gonna say what you do. I unplugged it and plugged it back in.
Stay there. 30-second phone call. See you guys later.
Bye, Caesar.
Who's the building liaison?
It was me.
You, okay.
First thing you do is you check to see what's
So-
budgeted in the first one.
Yeah,
If we start considering the request for the building position,
Why don't we do highway first?
Highway.
I'm open to that. All right, so the new highway position, we have the binders if we need to grab those.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Kathy, can you please hand us the blue binders? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm more concerned with having the stormwater.
Did you guys made it to the stormwater thing? Anybody make
No,
it?
couldn't talk.
Yes, I did.
You did? How was it?
Thank you.
It's surprising.
What did they say?
Okay, so it's gonna be,
They basically explained.
line 78.
This is what the stormwater is required, right, Charlie? It's required to explain the process. Sandy sent out the sheet electronically and how the costs were calculated. I found it interesting because I was kind of shocked from what I saw. I thought that was something we've been doing all along, most of what I heard. Of course, I'm not the expert.
Near the level of the requirements.
No?
Because we had a
Okay.
worksheet.
So if you bring us
catch basins got
I
cleaned out.
can make
At
copies for
some
everyone if I
point.
like.
Yeah.
Not on the
Yeah,
rigorous
so-
schedule, they're talking, I think, twice a year, if I remember.
Yeah.
And you still have to do the monitoring for the catch bases as an example, because you don't want them more than 50% full. So,
Excuse me, Kathy's Sandy, I'm sorry, is making copies of a worksheet that she'd used with Steve. It looks like it'll be helpful in terms of wages and stuff.
Okay, so highways overall requested increase, including stormwater, was 146.6. 114.3 of that was stormwater. I wish I had that email. Can't find the damn thing.
Oh, you want the email?
Do you have the email in the
Yeah.
breakout? Oh, let me just ask. I think I have it here, actually. It was 129.9, then we removed the labor piece of it. So we were comfortable with the remainder of the 114.3 as an increase.
No,
Yeah, it's 114.3, wasn't it?
we didn't vote it.
No, we didn't vote it.
Yeah. Right, yeah, because I have the same thing, so it's 129.9 from stormwater management too, that's not,
Let me open it, because that's 114 grand.
Yeah.
Peak.
yeah. This might, no, this isn't what Sandy's photocopying, this is different.
Yeah, that's, no.
So one is with current staff, and the second is with this proposal.
We're looking at the stormwater, thing, budget. The one, thanks, Sandy.
Wonder if we're gonna monitor all this.
I think that's the position request. What did we take out to get, sorry, 129.9, how did we get to 114.3?
Took out the town labor.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Right,
thank you.
because that's already included in
Yeah.
this.
So we actually gotta pay a contractor to do the catch basin cleaning and tracking?
We already pay a contractor to clean the basins, I believe, once a year. So,
But we have that many catch basins, huh? Almost 1,200 catch basins?
Well, Fred volunteered to work on the data thing, so one of you guys should volunteer to work on the catch. One of you guys should volunteer to work on the catch bases, because Fred volunteered to work on the database.
Take out your like sub pump, I mean.
I got plenty of those.
Pagoda.
I don't think that's gonna help much.
Oh, man. It's painful. I hate to do this now, but I'm gonna have to. Do we have any idea if the catch basin cleaning that we're doing today is included in the highway department's current budget request outside of the stormwater?
you mean the year we're in now, are they spending money, or do you mean,
No, so if we're paying for somebody to clean the catch basins once a year now, do we know if that was baked into their level service request?
for fiscal 20? So
It
it's
is.
not, are we doubling it in the sense of, is it in the regular highway? I don't know right now, no.
Okay.
So, Cindy may know.
Because if we're gonna nickel and dime, that's 19,500. It looks like, Out of the 1,200, they're all cleaned at least once a year. There are 65 that are cleaned twice a year at $15.50 per. So 65 times 15.50 is only $1,000. So we could potentially knock the 19.5 for catch basing down $1,000 to 18.5 and then remove that from the current highway budget. If in fact that's what we're paying for
Right.
catch basin cleaning.
Yeah, we'll ask Sandy when she gets back.
If that's true, we just found 18 grand. Which is a good portion of our $73,300 deficit estimated. Assuming we keep our 300. See what I did? So I have another, so this is catch basin cleaning. All of them clean once per year, 65 of them clean twice, $15.50. So if he's already paying somebody in the current highway budget to clean all the catch basins once a year, and we did a level service budget request, we could potentially move the 19.5 less the 15.50 by the 65, that would be doubled, which is only $1,007. So we could potentially knock 18.5 off of the department budget, just still need the level service. Huh?
It's basically our labor cost.
This is listed as capital actually, because it would be a contractor.
Well,
I
with
think-
capital, there's an expense. It's not labor, but it's not capital. Capital, when you get something out of it long term, it's going to be a continuing expense.
Okay. But it's not the town labor cost.
Right, right.
So it hasn't already been removed, if in fact that's the case. Sandy, we have a question for you.
Sure. This is for the building maintenance. Go ahead.
The stormwater maintenance sheet, it has a line in here for catch basin cleaning and tracking.
Yep.
That included all of the catch basins being cleaned once a year, and then there were 65 of them that were estimated to have to be cleaned twice a year. Do we know if we're cleaning all those catch basins once a year? Is that built into the highway department's level service budget request?
Do you want me to call Steve and we can ask him?
If you think you would know, that would be helpful.
I would think he would know, right?
I would think so. I know that they used to do it. I thought that he had said they used to do it once a year, but then it was getting to they were only doing it once every other year. I remember seeing them. There's a catch basin not far from my driveway. I remember seeing it being cleaned. I can't tell you how often it's being cleaned, and I don't know if it's in his budget.
I mean, I thought the whole thing was that we had to start doing it.
We have to do it more
Yes.
than more. So it's
You
definitely.
want me to call him and we can ask him?
Yeah, if you don't
I'll try
mind.
looking at this.
I will phone him.
It's a hefty chunk, so if it falls out that way, it's pretty helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the expense line doesn't
No,
have.
the expense line didn't.
Yeah, actually, we're-
Oh, wait. Oh, it's snow and ice.
Yeah, that's all different.
yeah. Yeah, well,
Because we can't touch the sweeping because we voted to not recommend the sweeper.
Correct.
So I wouldn't touch the sweeping.
Well, I went through our own emails and there were words here, there was no mention of what else you're supposed
I can't get to that I can't get to that file.
This one?
Do you want to forward it to you?
I can't, I'm not on network.
Okay.
Do you want the email password stuff?
He must have, must he?
No, that's all right, I'll look at lines.
He may call back.
Okay. Well, that's potentially 18,000. Potentially. Okay. The other major portion of the highway department budget was the additional position
Yeah, so Sandy photocopied two kind of worksheets. One is current staff and hours, and the other one's one new position full-time, and then reducing cemetery part-time to 2 summer part-time. That's on the second page.
Yep. Do these include the 2%, Sandy?
Yeah. But this is contract again. The highway is contract. But they're still working.
Oh, union contract.
Union.
Oh, that's why it wasn't included in the 2% on the sheet.
Right. So the only thing on the current staff that isn't union is the part-time worker in cemetery.
Which if we voted to recommend the new position, I think those two go away, right?
Yeah.
So. Okay.
And then net, so on the bottom, you'll see sort of like the net change from sheet 1 to sheet 2 is about 28,000. From 377,022 to 405,872.
So if you approve the extra person on the highway, the cemetery budget that's on our spreadsheet
Yeah.
would go down.
Right. The decrease is 64,792, but that's not with 2%.
So it goes about 7,000.
Okay. There wasn't much else in there. I know we already voted to reduce a couple of the sandblasting program. We cut that more than in half. So
Yeah.
aside from the stormwater piece and the additional request personnel, that is about it.
We did recommend increasing equipment on 82.
Yeah, that was the sandblasting. That was originally 10,000, and we figured if he was gonna do 1 year or
Or
more.
to just doing the one truck.
Right.
Yep. And then for another 1,500 for the barn maintenance. I don't know what you guys think.
Be good to get the answer on that reduction.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna happen tonight, unfortunately.
I'm gonna text him.
Can I give a philosophical opinion without having to vote on anything for the two request increases?
No, we have other.
Okay. So I know, because I'm usually stingy. I know Highway's been asking for a long time
Yeah.
with the stormwater.
Oh.
Oh, sweet.
Hi, Steve, I was just texting you. I'm at a finance committee, I'm at a finance committee meeting. Can I put you on speaker and so I have a question to ask you about the budget? Okay. Do you want him to come up or do you want to just ask him over the phone?
Do you think it's worth it down here?
We can try it.
We'll try on the phone.
Let's try
If it completely breaks
All
down,
right,
then.
hang on. All right, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Steve.
Hi.
Hey, Steve, we were just going over the stormwater numbers. So I don't know if you've seen that sheet at all. That's the 114,000 estimated for the stormwater increase.
Okay, yeah, I did see that on the meeting the other night.
Yep. So there was a line on there for catch basin cleaning.
Yeah.
It was like 19,500. We were wondering, is that something that we do now? The catch basin cleaning at all?
Yeah, we do that once every 2 years,
Okay,
but with the new, and this is a year that it's due, but now with the new stormwater, I have to do it 2 times a year, every year, around the ponds or any wet areas where there's stormwater going toward the water.
okay. Is that something you're hiring out, or is that something we're doing internally?
It's something we're gonna have to do, and I just put the bids out to see what I got for prices for, I put out the 3 companies, or 4 companies that went out too.
Okay, and when we did them previously, is that something we were paying for from another contractor, or is that something we were trying to do internally?
Another contract, we don't have a truck for that.
Okay. Do you have any idea what that cost and when the last time we did it was?
I think that's the number we got, the 19 or 20,000, whatever it was.
Okay, you think
That's
that's,
the number we had from the year, back in 16 or 17.
okay,
It would have been 17,000, 2017 is when we had the last time we had that done. And that was the price I think we got.
okay. So let me ask is if the other budget lines are level service and that the 19.5 is included in the stormwater management line, which is a new line, would you lose anything if we were to remove that double counting, if in fact that's what it's doing?
You can hear a little bit broken up, but I think you said if we would have to take the money out of our budget or
Yes.
the stormwater budget.
Yeah, so no, the stormwater budget includes it, so what we're looking at trying to figure out is if it's double counted in the other budget lines, if we're including it in the stormwater line.
Oh yeah, the prior budget, I didn't add that in my budget last year because we weren't gonna do it, so if that's what you're asking, it was not in last year's, but this year's, we're waiting to see what happened with the stormwater, so I did not put it in the budget for this year.
For 19 or 20?
The 19.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Hello?
Yep, just thinking,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh.
They're just thinking.
Does anyone have any other questions for Steve?
I don't know if it answered my question.
Well, I think he did in the
Yeah, he
sense
did.
of, what, Steve, what you said, for the fiscal 19 budget, the year we're in right now, because we weren't going to do any catch basin cleaning, no money was appropriated in that budget, the year we're in right now, to do that work. Is that correct?
I barely figured that one, but I think I made out some of it. If you're asking about the budget for this year, I did not add that in. The way that I understood it worked is I just take it out of the 150 that I get every year and put it toward catch basin cleaning.
I thought it came out of town road.
I did not add any more money for the catch basin cleaning, especially if we're going to be going with this stormwater article or line item.
Steve, I know you said before you weren't sure when the last year that you think it was completed would that have been 16 or 17? You thought?
It's 17. It was my May is when I started, so that it would just finish in May when I took office.
Okay.
So that would be in 17.
And you would have put that in, and that would have been the town roads line item.
And that would have been that would have been the prior budget. So I didn't have anything to do with that one. And then this year, 19, I did not put that in the budget because we weren't doing it every year. We're doing it every other year.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
We're just looking at the.
but like I said, now we have to do it every year.
Yeah.
Twice in certain areas.
We're just looking at the expended amounts for the last few years, so that's why I was asking when you thought it was done.
Yeah, I didn't have any of that done.
Yeah.
I just had the street sweeping last year.
Okay.
How much, do you know, have any idea what the street sweeping was at the same amount that was in the estimated stormwater sheet. It's like 30,000, I think, 32.
Yeah, I believe it was about 30 something. It was, 30 something because it was 21,000 I think I paid last year for the whole town, one time.
Okay,
So, and like I said, it's gotta be done twice a year in certain spots. That's why it's not like doubled. It's like quarter of the full.
okay. Jen, did you have any idea where that street sweeping would have come out of? What
I
line?
believe it would come out of town roads.
Town roads?
I'm looking at their, like the breakdown sheet, and there's contractor listed at 21,750.
And I believe that was the street sweeping last in FY18.
Yep.
So in FY19, well, for this year, he didn't give us a breakdown for the 74,000,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure what that would
Okay.
represent.
Yeah, well, it was a level funded request from 19. So Steve, you did the street sweeping in 19 and it was 21,000?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was, we actually got the whole town done that year. The year before, we didn't do the whole town.
Okay.
It was part of the town.
And then included the stormwater areas that have to be done twice a year now?
And that's what the whole, that's what the company actually figured in twice a year in those certain spots.
Okay. Is that the majority of it, Steve? Because I'm just trying to do the quick math in my head here. If it's 32 for twice a year around the stormwater areas, and it was 21 for the whole town, I'm guessing the majority of the cost is the stormwater piece.
Yeah, that's where the most of the, at least for our work would be the catch basins and the street sweeping. And one person will be having to go out and check the basins, like once, I believe it was once a month or something like that.
One of our guys or
Yeah,
one of the contractors?
One of ours.
Okay.
That's gonna be one of the town things.
Okay. That's all I need. That's all I needed.
Okay.
You good?
I am, yep.
All right, thank you so much, Steve. Have a great night.
All right. If you have anything else, I'll be around.
Okay, groovy, thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
That was good.
So I don't think the catch basins can come out if he hasn't done them since 17.
That's, okay, got it.
But the street sweeping, if it was 32 for twice around the stormwater, he paid 21 for the whole town plus the stormwater. If that estimate is correct, then you could probably save the 15 off the 21, so we could probably bump it to 15. Is that right? Am I doing that right? So if he spent 21,000 last year on street sweeping, in this year, or next year rather, it's gonna be, what is it, 32, I think I said? Let me look before I forget. So street sweeping twice per year was 31,300. So that divided by 2 is 15,650. So if he paid 21,000 last year to street sweep the whole town, and 15,650 of that was the stormwater, we should be able to take that amount out. We should be able to drop that town roads budget by 15,650.
Does that make sense?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, my only concern is he said that the contract, so, like,
Say again?
he said that he had 4 bids out for contracts.
Yep.
So if we drop it, and let's say the bid comes in at, instead of 32, but like 36 or something like that, you just took it, you know, we just underbid. I'd be kind of curious when those bids are supposed to come in.
Not in time for meeting, I would imagine, right?
One times for the town meeting possibly, but not before we go to print.
Yeah. And it might be something we might want to consider then at a later point and say, oh, look, that it came in a little higher, then maybe we should back it up.
I guess, look, I mean, what are we doing with the 300? Because if we're not willing to budge in the 300, then we gotta cut somewhere. So if it comes in higher, I guess we'll have to deal with it. But
I mean, how do we feel about the 300?
I'm fine with the 300. I would even be willing to recommend putting the resource officer amount back in for us to expend. And if the town decides to approve the resource officer and that busts the cushion, then that's on the town.
Well, I mean, at a certain point, something's gonna, like, anything could bust the cushion. Right?
Sure.
I see what you're
Sure,
saying.
but that was the one contentious one that I think,
Yeah.
I don't know. We gotta do something.
Can I just offer your opinion?
Sure.
An opinion. So I'm just speaking alone as a selectman, a single selectman here. I don't know what my other board members would say. But I think we need to stick with the 300.
Yeah, I would agree. So
I think that we need to do that. And I think that, Lenny, you make a good point about, the resource officer, I think, has a good chance of passing. But I also think that there's a good chance that that bus may be added back in as well. Because you may have, not that we have a lot of parents that show up at town meeting, we would love to have, as you know, the whole makeup of the town showing up, but we don't typically, I don't think that you're gonna have the whole place packed just because of the half a school bus. But I think it's good to kind of budget for it, just because I feel like it's an emotional issue that people will vote.
And I'm gonna sit there and say, where's the data? And I'll give them data to support that they
No,
don't.
that's cool,
I
but I'm
know.
just saying, like,
So if we were to do that, we're looking at a $100,000
deficit.
deficit to
Because
our
we have to-
300 budget.
If you agree, and again, this is just me, if you agree that $300,000 is what we protect, then anything that we're spending over that, I do think we need to think of it as a deficit. Yeah,
That's up my alley.
yeah.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I would like to start cutting someplace, and I think this is a prime candidate. If we've paid 21 in the past, we're offering another 32. We figured the difference for the stormwater that we paid the last time and take that out and still give them money for the rest of the town. If it comes in higher, it comes in higher, but we gotta cut somewhere if we're gonna stick to the 300, because we're down 100. So, I say we reduce the town roads by 15,650. As long as somebody can check my math here, because I'm struggling.
Yeah, I think we need to reconcile.
So last year, it was 21,000.
You do it on yours, Bill,
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, so what did we just say is gonna be put back that I wasn't accounting for? Resource officers in here.
And
The bus. What was the bus?
Bus was about 31 or 32. 30. Oh, sorry, it was
If we're gonna start doing
37.92.
that, then we gotta start other considerations, like the textbooks maybe doing half and half.
Oh, no, you can't touch those.
Well, why can't we touch those?
Well, because we asked that school
That's
committee for-
$80,000 you do.
No, I
40.
understand that, Fred, but we asked them, we asked all departments last year to go back and cut, right?
Yeah.
Every department did the same thing. They came back and they had been talking about those textbooks even the year before that. And they
I
knew things
understand.
were tight, and so on good faith, when they came back and cut their budget to the point, I mean, who knew we were gonna have a
Good
surplus
faith,
after?
they came back with a higher budget after we saw their first budget, and then they came back with a
You're
higher
talking
budget.
this year, she was
This-
talking
Yeah, okay,
last
yeah.
year.
I understand.
But, so, I mean, you guys do what you want, but I feel like I personally gave them their word last year, because I was so thrilled that they had come back, and the frameworks are changing, like, I feel like they did have a level service budget, and if you're gonna go to the school, you gotta go to everybody. You
The level
can't-
service budget would not have included an increase in the budget.
But so I reached out to.
No, but
I-
you cut it.
Yeah, and I reached out to Gordon and Summer both, and I said, look, because the tape for the meeting where we voted this, the tape wasn't out as of this weekend. So I did reach out to them and tell them, like, hey, look, this is what's going on, like, full transparency. We're gonna meet tonight. I think Silver Lake's meeting tonight, so I know that.
AGS is tonight. Elementary's tonight.
Elementary. Okay, I thought Silver Lake was too, but
Thursday.
I did reach out to them and say that that this is what it was, and this is, we were still working with the budget, but I wanted them to hear from us, obviously, that, and I put in I communicated what the rationale was, which was the lack of data and that was sort of our concern. It wasn't so much about the cost of the bus, it was that we're gonna spend this money. Our advisory capacity thought it wasn't wise to spend the money if we didn't have a clear plan of how the half of the bus would alleviate the transportation issues or the behavioral issues.
Especially when Summer sat there and told me that it could be the fact that the bus was sitting up there too long. My point is they're not looking at they're saying the bus will solve the problem when they haven't even looked at other issues that might be causing the problem.
No, and I understand why you cut the bus, and I
Yeah.
support that, because I too don't think it's gonna make a huge difference. So if I was sitting on that side of the table, I probably would have voted the same way, but I think I need to just kind of speak for the books and know that, you know, that was something that, I know some of you weren't in the room last year when we talked to the school, but I think that we need to figure that out.
Well, and my perspective too, because I was here last year, was that absent the bus, what they brought us was a level service budget. And
Right, and I agree with that.
Yeah, so, and I think that was sort of the, like, they presented us true level service. We went through and voted. Nothing else jumped out, and I was at 2 of the budget meetings, nothing else jumped out of that was like a barn buster expense. It doesn't mean that we might not have to look and like cut little bits here and there as we go
And I
through,
would
but-
prefer to do the text puts all up front. I'm just throwing out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Worst came to worst.
Yeah.
Push comes to shove.
Yeah.
And we're at the end of our rope here. We might have to consider that, breaking it into two.
Well, as everybody know, most people know that have gone through budget seasons, things are so flexible.
Right.
Like we say, like, you know, oh my God, that we're so tough. Like, this is the first year we didn't sit with a huge deficit the whole time, which was great. But as you know, like last year, at the same time last year, we thought we were having issues, and then new growth came in higher, and like, what else had changed? We didn't, senior center didn't get open. So can you think of anything else that you might have flexibility on the positive side? Or income?
Well, I know that as I said, the new growth figure, that's not a final figure. I used 120, she had actually told me 124. She does expect it to go up because she doesn't have a personal property in the area. So, but she wouldn't swear to it, so it's the 120. We are still looking at the ambulance revenues, they are going up. We're showing some good progress. We don't know for sure, I'll hold up through February. Usually, when it comes to actually setting the tax rate, that's when you actually see what's going on in the difference. But we can't wait until then to do this.
No, I understand, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
think of like.
But that's why last year we were looking at about 300 plus a little bit left on the table when we actually set the tax rate, it was 700.
Yeah, and that was mostly because the senior center was passed, and we had already put aside similar to what we're doing right now for the debt payment for the fire suppression system, which is good accounting, which is why we've remained a pretty healthy financial town compared to our neighbors.
So Bill, on your sheet, line 83, if we were to reduce the 74,355 by the 15,650 to take out the redundancy of the one street sweeping of the stormwater areas,
57,
15,650.
the new number's
Oh,
58,705.
58,705. So that is a,
So 183 town roads.
27-ish. 17-ish.
yeah, so to go over our synopsis, 71,844 is what we have left to spend. Less the wage and personnel increase, which are 54.5, less my estimate for union, less the 37 for the bus,
The
So-
bus is 31.
31.
Yeah.
37, 37.
It's 37.92. Sorry, not 37.
See reason appropriate at the top. A different Article 4 number.
What's Article 4?
Budget.
Oh, that's what I meant, okay. So I went through and put in the 2% increase across the board.
You did.
Yeah.
Sandy already did that, and that's the 54.
She did it on the side.
Right,
I
that's
did it, I did it so it sum up the calculation.
Did it match your 54? Or 54, 551?
It would have to. It would have to. I literally copied it over.
Right.
But that also doesn't include, like, that, the
So what-
line by lines don't include things like longevity or whatever, so
Longevity?
Yeah.
longevity.
I'm like,
It included the
So that's
steps.
why I'm going through the lines again.
Yeah.
To make sure I'm
I-
double checking everything.
Yeah, this is just,
I just
where
did
do we
off
think we
the-
stand right now?
Off the cuff, I just did the wage line times 2%, and this is what you get.
Yeah.
I think
So
you're
if I-
gonna end up meeting again on Wednesday.
If I plug them in, it reduces, I can't think. I think it reduces Article 4, right?
It should increase it.
No, it wouldn't increase it.
Article
Because
4.
B47,
You would increase it, but you would decrease it where
Yeah,
Sandy
leave them.
added it in the other formula, or else you're double counting it.
24,562.
That's why I just did it down here. So,
I was hoping to save it.
71.8, less the wage and personnel increase of 54.5, less my estimate for the remainder of the union increases,
Right,
less the 30,000, 31,000 for the bus.
right.
Leaves us at 88.5 in the hole.
So I guess here's my, just to push back on the philosophy, I don't think absorbing 88 into the 300 is wise, but if we got to, let's just say, theoretically, let's say we get to a $290,000 cushion, do you think it's worth it to go back and cut 10,000 from that just to say we have an even 300, or would you become, I'm just trying to get a sense of like, if there's any flexibility or how
Well, I
tight
think
we are about that.
Any remaining flexibility is gonna come from the items we don't have yet, because if those bust what I have in here for an estimate,
Yeah,
then we're screwed anyway, or we're really favorable.
yeah.
So if we get to 290, that's enough for me with the unknowns that we still have to say
Okay.
that's close enough.
And that was just my thing, like, and how do you guys feel about, like, if we got close to 300 but not exact, I'm just trying to get a sense of, like, are we gonna sit here and, like, really?
I don't know,
go
but
on?
going down,
I think
I would
it's,
say 30 would be the maximum I could have.
So 270 would be okay?
Yeah, I mean, even if we do that, we're still talking,
One of those, you know, either.
Yeah,
yeah, we're
I
still
understand
talking
what you're
60
saying.
grand.
yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I think I'm just trying to get a sense of, like, how hard line we are about it, and if, like you said, there's stuff we don't know yet that might wiggle us either way anyway.
Is anybody ready to provide a recommendation, given what we're looking at now and knowing what we're aiming for on the, either of the personnel increases?
So, we have, so Sandy also gave us information on the building,
Building maintenance.
building maintenance, which is this one. That increases it by what, about
About 11.
11,000? I mean, my personal thing is that I think that the highway department has been, not that they're both not needs and not that they're both not important, but I think with the stormwater mandates coming through,
I was all for it until we
Yeah.
got to the end, which is what I've been kind of
yeah,
aiming for a few months.
yeah,
Because once you see what you're aiming for, it makes it, in my mind, a lot easier. Because if you just scroll through the expends, I don't know what else is there. In big chunks, there's really nothing.
right, and
Even
I
I
think,
went back through fire and police, and aside from a
It's-
few nickel and dime,
right, it's
couple
like,
grand here, couple grand there.
exactly,
I mean, we could talk about maybe cutting them in half, but we're gonna need a $15,000, $20,000 chunk somewhere, at least. So I personally, if I was to pit the two increases for personnel against each other, I would probably grant it to highway, given the stormwater and given the fact that they've been asking longer.
yeah,
They have more roads. based on the number of people. They've had the same number of people, but the number of roads that they have to maintain has actually gone up.
Yeah, I feel
And
for
we've got
Scott.
the caboodle, so
Yeah.
that, because they can do it, but it's gonna take longer.
Well, but
So-
also I think, so that's another point about that, if we don't have all the numbers yet, and if stuff does boost to our favor, the like net add for the custodial would be $11,000, and I think that would be easier to include in, like if we're going back because we found a little bit extra and we were able to think about adding some stuff back in, that's a smaller dollar amount to
In the highway.
fit in, yeah.
Yes.
Right, like if we found, like, I'm just saying hypothetically, we found $15,000, it's easier for us to go back and say, okay, well, 11 fits into 15 a lot, you know, then we wouldn't have to make additional cuts to compensate.
Yep, I agree. The highway piece, again, I don't know where, I mean, again, where else are we gonna come up with the deficit?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it would suck for Steve to not get another individual, and it was gonna make his job 1,000 times harder. But I don't see any other major lines. It's just not there.
How conservative are the revenue numbers?
That's what I just asked her.
What's our error usually?
Well, I guess I can't give you a number. I can give you that, you know, if we went 1 to 5, where 3 is the middle of the road, and 5 is being optimistic and 1 is being woefully pessimistic, we're at 2. That's been good for us.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, you know, it was the 3 areas of property taxes, Sandy gave you everything she knows already. I mean, the only number there that changes is new growth. It might move a few $1,000s up, but, you know, it's not going to be a large amount of money. The state aid number, it's only going to be Chapter 70. The House budget is now until later this month. The Senate budget is now until May. And we'll know what the House budget is when we go to town meeting, and maybe we'll have some indication whether the Senate's going to support the House budget or not. But unless, I mean, there's a lot of talk about Chapter 70 up in Boston, but I don't know that they're going to do anything substantial this time, because again, it means finding a new revenue source. One way or the other, either you bump the income tax up something, or you do something, it just, they can't do anything that's going to be significant to us without having to get a large amount of revenue. And I think they're talking about doing that, I just don't know that they're going to be, that will have something so definitive that we can go to town meeting with it. So that's, and then we have local receipts. Motor vehicle, I wouldn't change. The only thing we can change is ambulance, and we were waiting.
For more information.
Yeah.
And when do you think you would have that, Stephen?
Right now, as I said, I'm going to pass out, I did a local receipts comparison, FY 18 to 19. I highlighted the ambulance. You can see ambulances are up. How much they continue to go up, we don't know. We just have to wait and see.
And I think the 20,000 expense was based on,
The fact that we have, the 20,000 expense was necessary because we have the new company.
right, yes.
And we were expecting,
And it's a percentage of the revenue.
right.
So what did we, do you remember, what was it, like
Right
4% or
now,
something?
my estimate would be that they're going to bring in about 500,000. They had hoped 600,000, but I'm thinking about
What
500,000.
number are we using right now? Using the 4?
We're
Yeah, that's
using
500. If it's
Yeah.
4%, which I believe it was, it's 500,000
Right.
in revenue.
So when for our estimates for this tax season, this budget, right now we're using 400,000 as
I mean,
our estimate,
Okay.
because we used what we had gotten last year, what we estimated last year.
and until just now, since
Right.
January and February, we haven't seen any reason to deviate.
Right.
As much as we went to the new billing company, we weren't seeing the receipts.
Well, we were delayed because it was just, they
I
were just
I understand
started.
that, but.
But even after the delay, there was
Yeah.
an additional delay before the money seemed to be increasing. The last couple of months, it increased, but without too much of a history.
Yeah, not enough of
Where-
a trend that we feel comfortable
right.
with.
Right, so,
Is the big number because of the delay and things clumped together, so we're catching up?
Yep,
so that's
okay.
what we're sort of waiting to
Do-
see.
So you could make
But
a
that
Do
decision.
we happen to remember what the percentage, if it was in fact 4%, we could chop 4 grand off of that expense line? Because we have 20,000, which would, if it is 4%, it would be 500. If it's 400,000, if we're
Oh, I see
estimating
what you're talking
400,000, we could bump
Right.
that down to 16.
Yeah, see, and that I would get, I would worry about too, because if you chop 4 grand off of it,
Yep,
and say, now we're thinking we're only gonna bring in about 450 in revenues, well then if we do bring in the 500 and 600, we don't have money to pay for, pay the company.
I mean, what will happen is in May
Yeah.
or June of next year, we'll do a line item
We'd
transfer.
have
well,
to,
best case scenario, we would have to do a line and transfer to shell out more anyway, right? Because we took more in than the 4, than the
right,
5 that we
yeah,
estimated.
if we got 600,000, we'd end up having to do a line item transfer, reserve fund, or a special town meeting article.
Right, because it goes into the general
Right.
fund, we
Right.
can't use it to
Sure.
pay for the billing.
Right.
But, I mean, you're looking at a potential, like you're gonna try and find 100,000, but you could potentially have that in income, but because we don't know for sure, it's hard.
It's hard to
And then come
estimate that.
Yeah, what
summer,
you did
we're gonna
makes
have a-
sense.
We could potentially have
Right,
a surplus.
but what, that's right, so when we do our actual tax recap in September, we may say, oh yeah, we're gonna estimate the receipts at 500.
Yep,
And that's gonna change the whole picture of what you're looking at.
sure.
Or what we,
Which is what
but,
happens.
but we're not, Charlie and I aren't comfortable
No
right
banking on
now
it. Yeah, that makes sense.
to increase it.
Yeah.
Now, if you were going to push it,
Mhm.
you'd push it maybe to the 450. You wouldn't push it to the 500.
I wouldn't even push it right there.
Yeah.
And we don't,
I'd like to see at least another month,
Right. Well, then
if not
that's
two. March isn't over yet, so it's, I've done everything I can right now for
Because,
comparisons.
you know, Sadie, I talked about it just earlier this
Yeah.
month, and that's
I did
the
call them.
conclusion, yeah.
This month and spoke to him about it. It's just, yeah,
It's
We-
really
we-
hard.
And we see what happens with other communities like Clinton that overestimate their local receipts.
Yep.
And
Yeah, we don't, as hard as it is for you to have to go through this exercise
Right.
of potential cuts,
you don't want to end up in.
you don't want to,
another
yeah,
deficit.
yeah.
and I hate saying this, May 13th, we'll have March, we'll have April. I'm not saying it's wonderful to come in with a revised budget, the week before town meeting, but I'd rather go into a revised budget that is better news, that doesn't, than worse news.
okay.
And we'll have, for that matter, maybe we'll have some news on chapter 7, but we won't have it by tonight, we won't have it by Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody feel comfortable voting on the new highway department road line, less the sweeping?
Yeah, I think we should vote on that and vote on, like, group all the wage lines together that we just took the across the board 2% on, officially vote on those lines.
Okay,
That way we can have the most, like, up-to-dated
Agreed.
okay.
figures. And that will include a discussion then of the, each of the 2 new positions, because those are worked into wage lines. Okay. So do you want to go back and re-vote then line,
Talking the highway one?
yeah, line 83 town roads? No, sorry, yeah. Line 83 town roads.
Yep, I will. Do we have to rescind the original, or can we just make a motion to recommend the new number?
I think you just make a motion to recommend a new number.
Okay. I will make a motion to recommend line 83, highway town roads, in the amount of $58,705.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, oh, sorry.
I'll just state that the reduction is of $15,650, which is the estimated cost for the sweeping of the stormwater management areas that was done last year, that is now built into the stormwater management line.
Right, so we're just getting rid of that redundancy this.
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So that's still recommended, a different amount. All right. So let's go back to page 1. I'll entertain a motion for lines 3, town admin salary, 4, selectmen and clerical, 8, no, not 8, sorry. Did we not vote town reports?
It was a big jump.
No, you
Yeah.
didn't. I was gonna say you didn't vote because it was an increase.
Yeah. What you mentioned this to me is that for the last few years, we've had special town meetings and we don't budget the expenses related to that. Traditionally, we just put enough money in for the annual meeting. And what you told me is, look, we'd like to start seeing you put it in a special also, rather than doing a line item transfer in May or reserve fund or special town meeting, so that's why it's in there.
Okay.
And it's for the postage and printing, not just of the annual report, but the town meeting warrants and, even, unfortunately, even the most minimal town meeting like February, it's $1,000 in postage.
All right, so then let's hold a vote on line 8, town reports. The requested amount is $10,400.
I'll make a motion to recommend item line 8, town reports, in the amount of $10,400.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so let's just take this in chunks. Lines 3, town admin salary, and lines 4, selectmen clerical. I'll entertain a motion.
You want me to just do all town government? Or you want to do them piece at a time?
I'm just trying to see how we've got chunks, I guess.
Are those updated on this sheet?
It's updated with the 2% wage increase, and the second column in from the right has the 2% number.
So we have to vote every line at a 2%?
Well, that's why I was saying we can just clump them together, because we voted
We
at 2%.
voted the 2%. I can fill in the amounts, and these are about what they are.
So we don't have to make a motion on every line then to recommend if we've already recommended that all wage and personnel lines go up 2%?
Or include the 2% increase.
Okay,
They won't go up exactly 2%.
Right.
Some lines will be longevity, some lines there won't be. Some
Okay.
lines you'll see changes because people left, new people coming
Yeah.
in. But the amounts that Sandy's given to you
Okay.
include the 2% increase with everything else. The extra 2 days, everything else that's in there.
so we voted to recommend the 2% across the board, so we can hold a vote to add the recommended 2% to every wage and personnel line. And that can just encapsulate all of them instead of going line by line?
Yeah, we've done that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
with the exception of the lines that are asking for increases.
Yeah, the personnel increases.
Right.
Right.
In the union contract.
Right. Yeah,
which
these are all
some we-
just
some we don't have, so.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to apply the recommended 2% across the board wage and personnel increase to all of the relevant existing lines in the operating budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Do all in the 2% increase in column U, that's strictly wage and personnel, doesn't include union?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll see like on police wages, there's a little tiny bit because they have some part-time workers. And then on the fire, there's a little tiny bit. That's because they have some call firefighters. So I included a 2% increase on those, on their part-time wages.
Okay.
And I'll have final figures for you on Wednesday.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Can I bring to your attention the library lines?
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking for other stuff that we haven't,
So I had a discussion with Jean today. Her library lines, in the past, when we increased the wage lines, we've been able to decrease her expense line to offset it. Because you know she has a final target number she has to stay at. Well, this year, we're finally reaching the point where the increase is not allowing her to fully wrap in her capital items. So at the last meeting, she had her capital items included in her expense. This, by adding in the 2% of her wage on the director's salary and on her clerical, we're starting to cut into that amount. So what I propose is that we give the 2% on the director's salary and on the clerical.
Right.
We reduce her expense account to $89,329. That allows those 3 lines to meet her target that she needs.
Okay.
And then for the computers that she had as a capital item, that we put that back into an article for the computers and put in the difference. She has actually an extra $1,513 in her expense line. So the computers would be funded partially by the article and partially by the $1,513 in her expense line.
So Sandy, what's that gonna save in Article 4?
So you
That
will,
13,000, is that what the computer articles are?
actually 23, because the computers were 3,858. So we would need an article for 2345
Oh,
for the
that's all.
computers, but 1513 would come from her expense.
1,500, not 15,000?
right.
Okay.
Okay, so the total for the 3 library lines is 324,701.
329,679.
Okay, so it's not,
7,679.
so it's not 89, then it's 92.
Try again?
I have 327,700.
Yeah, so she said that well, you said that the expense line was 89,
89,320.
but it would have to be 92,328 that's in the sheet.
No, that's what's in there, but we're increasing the director's salary to 66,943.
Yep.
And the clerical to 171,407.
Yep.
I have 173, 137.
I do too.
Right, she had some changes in staff, so she hired a new person, so we figured in the actual salary for that new person for next year. One of her higher paid people went to a 30-hour position, so the lower paid person is at the 35-hour position, so that's how that happened. So if you add 66,943 plus 171,407.
And that's including the 2%?
Yes. 329 equals 327,679. So that's what we have to be for the library.
That's not what I have. What's the expense line?
89,329.
Okay.
That changed
Got it?
because we took the capital plan out of that, so that actually did go down from the last time I was here.
So,
Okay, so we need to change the 54 because we had 173, 137. And now that's the wage for clericals, 171.
171,407.
And the difference is
Okay.
because when I originally did it, I put my new hire in at a step.
Okay, so actually we
And then
don't.
Sandy reworked the numbers to put the new hire in at a step 1, plus I had it for a starting,
Go back to the,
I originally.
Yeah,
had
so
her
it actually doesn't
starting
make
in
any
March,
difference because it just
then
came out of
I
one and into the
revised
other.
it For April 1st, and now it's April 10th.
So it makes no difference
So
where we put it, it's just a
April
matter of
10th,
semantics.
Step 1 is the
doesn't matter on the
difference.
bill though.
Thank you.
So 170, what was the 171,407?
Yes.
That's the clerical line, yeah.
So then basically we need to revote line 127 library expense in the amount of 89,329.
Okay.
Actually, we didn't vote, so we are voting it. I don't have it as having been voted yet. So I'll entertain a motion for line 127 library expense for the recommended amount of $89,329.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Sandy, what's the library wages, what's that number less the 2% to get to the 171,407?
It was 169, 169,742.
What number are we asking?
The new clerical wage line less the 2%.
Less than 2%, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
Bill was asking
167,526.
for. So that's why it doesn't match what's on there, because she had some changes with her higher paid individual dropping hours and a lower paid individual picking them up.
68.
So there was a reduction to the
That's with longevity.
20 ask
Oh, all
line.
right, yeah.
Okay, so that's why it's not tying
So
out.
that's.
Yeah,
So what'd you do, just plug the number?
I just plugged it in.
Longevity.
All right.
171,407.
No, actually just leave that number because it's gonna be captured in the 54. Because the numbers of the 2% aren't in that column,
Yeah, I
so.
was gonna delete the 54. I sent Sandy my workbook after we're done, so I tried to move it over.
Then I go through and I
And
say
she just
that
goes through and
is-
tells me where I made a mistake.
I have another line I need you to reconsider also.
Can I ask just a question about that? So I revoted my total expense, but if the 2% doesn't pass at town meeting,
Oh, right, it'll be short.
are we short?
We'll be going back.
So we have
If
to.
the 2% doesn't pass,
We have to revote
I'll be
them.
going back. I will go back on town meeting floor. We'll hold it and we'll move it back to the 92,
Okay,
all right?
Okay.
And then we'll, so if the 2% doesn't pass and we go back to the old numbers for the salaries and clerical, the old number for the expense.
You'll just have to put it-
And then we'll pass over the article that we put in for the computers.
okay, and then you'll just
So
have to
that
put
it
that
would be-
number
yeah.
back into the expense line.
Right.
Okay.
It's like a puzzle. The other number I need you to look at, and unfortunately it's another increase, but the Historical Commission, we had a surprise when their electrical bill. They've been, as you can see, they don't spend a lot. All they do is pay electricity out of this account for, I think there's 3 electricals that they pay. Last year, the Municipal School Building Committee put a dehumidifier in their basement because they were starting to get some mold in the ceiling. The dehumidifier ran 24/7 for a few months, and the electricity bill went huge through the roof. So they are, the woman who pays the bills, she is talking to the Historical Society and hoping to get them to invest in a more efficient dehumidifier so that it doesn't use as much electricity, but it is still going to use some electricity. I'd like you to consider raising the Historical Commission budget from $242,499 to $3,500 to pay for the extra electricity. Hopefully they'll get a really good one and we'll be able to lower it again next year, but otherwise we're gonna definitely end up being short.
Have we ever needed a dehumidifier before?
Yeah, not that I know of, but I also, it's the museum, and they moved down there, I don't know, what is that, how many years ago? Yeah, so they've been experiencing the dampness down there, so sort of the things that they have in the museum,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did-
I don't know why.
And it's in the basement?
Pardon me?
It's in the basement?
I don't know if you've ever been in that building.
I have.
Yeah, so the upstairs is where they have their displays and the storage is in the basement.
Okay.
So,
Has the basement been compromised, which is why we need the dehumidifier now versus not needing it before?
I don't believe so. I know they were having some issues with the siding, and the siding was recently replaced. But I don't know that it was compromised.
Is there any standing water in the basement that requires a sump pump?
I don't know that answer. whether it requires this adoption.
I'll make a motion to recommend line 135 Historical Commission, the amount of 3,500.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Further questions? All those,
No questions, just I'd like to find out if the basement's been compromised or if we're getting standing water now where we didn't have it before. You
I've
could,
sent myself a note to talk to Scott.
okay.
And that number, the 3,500, is already in your figures?
Yep.
I had punched it in and put a big staff
Yep.
and talked to you about it.
Yep.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Line 41, town buildings expense. That's an increase. Sorry.
Yeah, that was the. Actually, I think I have a sheet on that.
41. Oh, uniforms, right?
Yeah, actually, I got some information on that, if I can
I
find it.
remember the discussion.
Yeah, he gave me some numbers, but I don't know if I have them.
We can consider the, line 40, town buildings custodial, because that includes the position. So Sandy made the note here that a level service request, which would be no new position, would be 179,270. The requested amount was 199,778, which includes the new position.
Yeah, so where's Sandy's new sheet
So 11.7.
Yeah,
proposal?
that's about, yeah.
So we discussed earlier that we're not recommending this and about recommending the highway.
I don't think I can recommend either personally, if we're gonna stick to the 300. We just frankly don't have it.
Yes, Bill, that was the.
That's what we were
originally
saying
thinking
earlier.
was-
That was what I just floated as my proclivity, but
I
Because we could always come back because it was such a lower amount.
yeah.
And if we did find that money, it's easy to pigeonhole 11,000 as opposed to the highway number.
Yeah. I think I always see this more as like plugging in highway for decision-making purposes, and then we might have to go back and take the highway position out anyway, but that the custodial was easier to plug in after the fact. But I completely also understand the argument if you want to leave both out of the formula until we get to the end and then make a decision that way.
Well, like I said, what do we have left? There's really not much left, and we're 85.5 in the hole. And that's conservative, I think, a little bit because of the union increase number that I have, which,
Yeah.
The 85.5 assumes those two rolls though, right?
it does currently, yeah.
Because we're figuring if the vote goes through on town meeting floor.
Yep, so what are we saying if we were to not recommend the custodial, it would save us what?
It would save us 11,700,
11,700.
so it would be the recommended, so the amount we'd recommend would be 179,270 for line 40.
Is that including the 2%?
Oh, no, so it'd be 179,270 plus 2%. 79.
I'm gonna, not worry about the 2% in this number, just because
Well,
we
it'd be-
know that the 2% is a guesstimate anyhow, so,
Yeah, I mean, it'd be 182,855-ish.
okay. I'm just gonna leave that flux in the 54 increase on the 2%. So if we remove that, we are looking at, what the hell did I just do?
179,270.
What did
Yeah.
I just do?
Why is it only 11,000? Is that because we got rid of the part-time position?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was, yeah, he had reduced his overtime and one of the part-time positions.
And added a full-time?
Yep.
No,
Well,
part-time grade
right,
4.
So he got rid of the part-time position, he reduced his overtime, and he got rid of one of the summer help.
So
In-
s-
Go ahead.
we're voting on a 179,270?
Less the, yeah, because we already
That
voted on
excludes-
2%, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, if we were to do that, we're down to a deficit of 73,790.
Just for town building?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the recommended, so I'll entertain a motion for line 40 town buildings custodial for a recommended amount of $179,270.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so 179,270. All right, so then let's go to
Highway.
highway. I feel like there's other stuff on town buildings that we didn't vote. We didn't vote town building expense?
I thought we did. Didn't we
Preventive
last?
maintenance?
Didn't we last time?
No, I don't think we did.
The expense piece we did not, because he was gonna get
Yeah.
us numbers. But the preventative maintenance, we did talk about that, because we had the details on the alarm contract, the elevator contract, and the,
Oh, right.
and the HVAC for the library.
So, do we want to vote lines 41 and 42 now? Line 41 town building expense, the request amount was
What was
38,150.
that, driver? The 6,000 difference?
That's the one that Len says he has notes for.
He called me. I think I don't know what I did with the notes. This was a small increase in uniforms. This was the line with the miscellaneous
Yeah.
for 17,500.
Well, all right, so let's go to 42 first. Line 42, town building preventative maintenance, request is for 52,616. That we understand and we know what the.
Right.
Yeah, those are all third-party contract increases for the
So I'll entertain a
elevators and
motion.
alarms and everything else.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion on line 42, town building preventative maintenance in the amount of 52,616.
I recommend. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye. So the 41,
Yeah.
a small increase in uniforms.
Yeah.
About $1,000 for tools. And a few other small line items to total to 5.
Yeah. I remember the uniforms part. So.
So that one had the 17,500 for miscellaneous.
Okay.
So I'm open to cutting that by a certain amount.
You want to cut the miscellaneous?
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, we can't cut the miscellaneous line item, but we can cut the budget request
By yeah.
and assume it will come out of miscellaneous.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, if he determines the uniforms don't need to go up or something else.
All right. So that would be.
So I don't know what you're considering having it. The increase was 5340,
Sorry. What did you say? The miscellaneous line was.
17,500.
All right. So then we can recommend an amount of 36,400, which would be everything he asked for less the miscellaneous line, the value of the miscellaneous line.
So 38,150 becomes 36,400
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
And then what comes out again?
The
The miscellaneous. Line 41.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at these numbers like, what the hell am I missing here? The total miscellaneous was 17,500.
Yes.
Not an increase of 1750.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is he was requesting an increase for, out of the 5,340, he was looking for some more money for uniforms. The $1,000, so that number for uniforms went up by like $300. The tools is a new line item because he wants to do a tool refresh. He said he was previously purchasing them out of the electrician and plumber supply lines. And then there was just a request for an increase for stuff like hardware and miscellaneous. So what I'm saying is if the request is for an additional 45, 65,
Yeah.
I think I'm comfortable recommending a half of that increase to at least get them $1,000 for some new tools and the
Yeah.
required new uniforms.
So you want to add like, just kind of split the difference and add like 2,700
Yeah.
to FY19?
Yeah, so half of the request,
Yeah,
yep, exactly. Would be
2,300 rounded up.
2,300.
yeah.
Yep.
So the recommended amount would be 50,351.
No.
I'm sorry, wrong line.
50,316.
No,
No.
wrong line.
Oh,
I did the same
Line
thing.
41.
It's
40.
So it'd be the 2,300 on top of 32,810.
35,110. My math is right. I did that in my head. Let me just double check.
Good job.
Is it right?
35,110.
Oh, cool.
here you go. So next
All right,
week
so I'll
we'll
entertain a
have-
motion for line 41 town buildings expense amount of $35,110.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion?
What was it again? 35?
110.
35,110.
110.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, highway.
Yeah.
We're down to 70,750.
That's to maintain the cushion, right?
All right, so we
What are
already
you down to then?
70,000.
we have to find.
750.
All right, so for line 78 highway wages, a level service request would be $296,480. That's not with the 2%, but the 2% gets added later anyway.
This is, we're talking highway?
Yeah.
I think we better. I'll make a motion to approve line 70 highway wages for $296,480.
Seconded.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. 96,480.
Where are we at now?
We are at 34,721.
I'm looking to see what else. Hazardous waste collection? We have an updated number?
That's an accurate number.
Okay, we haven't voted that yet.
No.
All right, so we have to vote line 108 hazardous waste collection. The requested amount is $14,550.
I'll make a motion to approve that recommend that 14,550.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We talked about the increased charges last time. That's it.
I don't see, did we not vote the library expense?
Yeah, we just did.
We just did.
That was the shell game of in and one way.
It's
One,
89,329?
yeah.
Okay.
So I can just go scroll through here and throw out some additional ones that we talked about. Unless you have a direction. Is there anything else we hadn't voted on?
No.
Sandy, what's the increase in the temporary loans again?
That's to pay the
$55,000?
ban for the fire suppression. The interest on the ban for the fire suppression.
Okay.
I'm just looking at what had the biggest increases over the last.
What number, how far down right now?
So we voted every line. We
Right.
made a recommendation every line.
34,721.
Yeah, so
So
I'd like at least 5 or 10,000 more.
We did have, we recommended an extra 4,000 for cruiser maintenance to bring that to a $15,000. I know we are shuffling one in, but the one that was soaking up most of the expense, I think, was the old Chief's cruiser. If we don't have that anymore, maybe we could pick a few thousand off of that one.
but the problem is we are gonna have the old police cruiser and the Tahoe, because one's going to the animal control officer, the other one's going to the,
But they won't be
Ton.
covered under
It'll
cruiser
be like
maintenance.
a damn it, but
They won't
yeah.
be.
but it'll have to be covered somewhere though.
Not the cruiser maintenance.
It's gonna be expensive.
It's under the animal control expense.
Yeah, it's gonna go down in one and up in the other. Still needs to be done, I presume.
Well, I mean, the town mechanic
Animal
could do
control
it.
expense is funded out of the dog license fees. So it's a different fund, not the, so we might have a little room there.
I'm just saying the expense isn't gonna go away, because the vehicle's not going away.
Right, but what you're saying is we put in the expense for the amount of the dog licenses anyway. So,
So
If it gets spent, then that's what will
Right.
get spent on.
So in FY
Is it
18, we
usually-
spent $483 out of animal control expense.
Out of a $5,000 expense.
$4,616. So we
Okay.
have some extra money in that one.
Because we just recommend to spend the income from the fee.
I mean.
So we'll have less
and
flowing back
It's
to.
probably not going to take as much to keep it going because it doesn't get the use that a cruiser gets.
And if the town mechanic had to do it, it wouldn't be as dire as a cruiser.
Right.
Because the town mechanic technically should do it, but
Right.
the guy's swamped.
But it
but-
definitely wouldn't be covered under the cruiser maintenance anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So while we're here on the temporary loans, I'll make a motion to approve the interest on temporary loans, line 150 for $60,000.
Oh, yeah.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
One thing we did talk about was on line 155, our OPEB trust. We talked about why we wanted to increase that contribution from $35,000 to $40,000 to show sort of good faith that we're, making kind of regular contributions and in fact increasing them. But
I just was there, Melinda. I just said it to Charlie.
I know.
I don't think we can consider that. I couldn't support it. I know where you're going.
Yeah, don't make me say it. We could bring ourselves back to our FY19 contribution,
What was the 19 contribution?
35,000.
And what
So
was requested? 40?
40.
It's 5,000.
Why don't we do 3750? Just did something.
We haven't done anything in 5 years.
We've done 35, right?
Well,
You mean we have
we've
an
had no increase in
Yeah.
5 years, and it's underfunded now, right?
yeah, most people are underfunded. Yeah.
That's something. It's not nothing. We're pinching.
Yeah.
Look at.
I mean,
you want to see my one-page synopsis?
I'd be happy to go to 36, right? Like if we increment $1,000 or whatever.
What about a percentage, say 10%?
What increase?
I don't know, it's nice, 3,500. I don't know.
If you put it at 36, then it's just over a 2.5% increase. The 2.5% increase is $875. 2.5% is what we get to go up on our levy every year. It sort of makes sense. I could live with 36.
Okay.
I'm sold.
I'm just trying to make up the
Yeah.
gap
Well,
for not
it's-
doing anything for 5
right.
years.
Yeah.
But it is a huge, it's something that we're going to be paying forever. We can revisit it next year and see if we can get it up higher, but
Yeah.
So 36 you're okay with?
I'll entertain a motion on line 155 for a recommended amount of $36,000 for OPEB trust.
All grudgingly accept that recommendation.
I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't really like doing it, but
Do we want to revisit police maintenance? Cruiser maintenance?
Yeah.
what about?
That was good, yeah.
What if we, and again, I don't want to do this, but
Yeah.
because, so line 60 emergency management, I don't want to cut the full requested amount, obviously, because fire's only been getting about 1,500, about 1,545. The requested amount was 6,550 for a $5,000 increase.
Yep.
If we were to cut back a little bit on that, they could still, because we have the regional shelters, we could still maintain a warming shelter maybe for one night as opposed to multiple nights, which was what the budget was.
How many, what was the number for the multiple nights? Was it 2?
I think this is 2 or 3 nights.
Is it 2 or 3 though?
Yeah.
Sandy, do we know if it's 2 or 3?
I don't know.
I don't know. The thing about this one, this particular line too, though, is that the chief's not gonna move the money to anything else if it doesn't get spent. He wouldn't line item transfer this out to anything. It's really just kind of that insurance policy in case we do need to have a warming shelter.
Yep.
But
I'm just trying to look for,
it'd end up being a line item transfer request, right?
it'd be
If
probably
it's
be a reserve
needed,
fund
I mean,
transfer.
sorry, reserve fund
Yeah,
transfer.
because if we really,
Good night, everybody.
If we got
Anything
stay with the
coming?
storm.
Yeah.
The thing is, our shelter is supposed to only be a warming center.
yeah,
It is, we would need to have an EMT there, that's the strong feeling that they would need to have an EMT there. Again, who knows if we have 1 storm, 2 storms,
yeah.
or if we have no storms, or,
Okay. Do you have the calculations on, I got the 5,005? Is it in here?
It's probably in his thing.
He doesn't say, it just says increase to pay for shelter worker wages.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, so it's an additional, again, like, I don't want to do this, but it's an add of 5,000, so if we cut it back to an add of 3,000 or something like that, that if we have to start finding little pockets here and there.
My wife's a geriatric nurse, I can drive her down.
You will volunteer.
Sandy, why were there no supplies for 2017-18 and none requested for 18-19? Oh, those are plug numbers, never mind.
Yeah.
No, actually, is that true?
And what?
Because he hasn't spent it out.
Oh,
I don't think anything's been
Yeah.
spent out of that line.
he hasn't paid any salary and wages out of it,
Yeah.
so the actual FY18, actually, no, sorry, I lied. In FY18, he used his whole 1545 for wages, but not in the shelter. They were used for an intern, I believe, who came and did a project for him,
Yeah,
Okay.
all right?
yeah.
And then the town meeting approved number, that was okay. I just plugged in the same number.
We gotta staff it, right?
We do. How far in the hole are we?
30,
I'd like to get 5 more.
3721.
We can get to 275.
Well, why don't we talk about, why don't we look at chopping the cruiser maintenance?
Yeah,
Okay, that's 4,000.
yeah.
Cut it by 2, cut it by all of it.
We cut it in half. I mean, I think we're trying to be fair to everybody and like at least giving them a portion
Yeah,
back
half
and
and
not just
half.
like hacking,
Yep,
you know?
that's true.
So, we could reconsider line 50 for, an FY20 amount of $13,000.
I'll recommend that motion. I make a motion to recommend 13 even, right?
Yeah.
For police cruiser maintenance.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So then would you feel comfortable taking like 2,000 off the emergency management request?
I would.
And that way we've been kind of fair to
Yeah.
everybody? Okay. So then that would mean the requested amount for line 60 emergency management would be $4,550.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
26.7.
What?
And what's the bus?
26.7.
And the bus is 31?
The bus is in there, yeah.
Yep. The bus is in there, the resource officer's in there, another 30.
See, I can see this, I can see the,
I think we've got to leave it there, though.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do, but I'm just saying, I can see the resource officer covering that. But, you know,
Yeah.
right.
That's my hope, but
Right,
you just
right,
never know.
Right, yeah. And the bus, to me, it's like, if you want to do that without data to back it up, then I think you're gonna have to go under
How
the
far was
300.
it? 20 something?
Because it gets to a point where you're gonna just be cutting too many services for something that might not even happen, which really shouldn't happen.
Right, we're trading the resource officer for a highway individual.
Right,
Essentially is what we're doing.
right. Which is what we should not be doing.
We've been asking everyone else. Charlie, is there any room in law and data processing?
No, I mean, I just came to you today, and my hope is, you know, unfortunately, the case that we're dealing with, both of them are active. One of them's going to trial next month now, it's supposed to be this month. So I don't know when that's gonna close. And the other one, maybe we'll get this done before June 30th, but right now, I can't promise anything. And that's what's driving the expenditures, is the active cases. It's not so much consulting with counsel.
Okay.
And we've got a process and, yeah, it's not, you know, someone, I would do what I'd have to do to bring it down, but, it's, cutting it would be making it very fragile, in the sense of, if something goes wrong, I got, literally, do I not do backups, for
Right,
instance?
and you got legal requirements that you really should be doing that sort of stuff.
I-
No Virginia
Sandy would
litigation.
have to go back to using index cards
I think honestly, it seems like for the information we have right now, we've done as much as we can for tonight.
I think so too.
Because we're still getting information in. And for all we know, if the receipts change or if the, you know, whatever the word is, I can't say tonight, that begins with an L. Not longitude, longevity. Whatever.
You do have trouble with that.
So we have to do the 2% for line, wage line?
No, we took that vote, so that's all good. So that's why I'm saying I think like we've have to be like we've done what we can, but
Where are the, do we have the new police budget? Because I just want to see what the,
I don't know if it's in there. It might be the one in our email.
yeah, I thought so too. Let me see if I can find it, because that was 17,000. I don't think that was just
What was 17?
the police wage.
It was a lot.
Was that just
trainings and
steps?
stuff, right?
It was,
Oh, here it is, revised police budget.
we looked at police. There was something that was cut out of it when we discussed it.
Oh, step
Oh,
increases.
we took out the I don't know if it was in that one, but what is it for paying
We
the
took out
part-times
Yeah.
to
the
go
wage
to
sick
academy?
buyback because they had never budgeted it
Yeah.
before.
Overtime line items
that-
will increase as patrolmen will have additional training.
But that
Open shift, pays
1098,
overtime.
688 number reflects the removal of that sick buyback.
What is the, do you have any further questions on it, please? You? What goes into the highway snow and ice, 177,509?
Can't touch that budget. The reason being that the state allows us to deficit spend on that budget if we have a lot of storms. We can spend over that budget. They just have to let us know, and then we make it up at the special town meeting, or we put it on our tax recap if we couldn't make it up at the special town meeting. If you lower that budget, the state will not allow you to deficit spend. So if you lower the budget and we have a really bad winter, we're up the creek.
Okay, we did lower 18 to 19.
No, it's always been the same. No, it's,
Not on my-
You might be seeing actual.
Oh, yeah.
budgeted.
yeah, that's what you're looking at. Yeah.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. 1 second here.
Because you'll see,
I may have some good news. Nope, I don't. I thought ambulance billing was 20,000.
20,
Was it 20,000?
huh?
I thought ambulance billing was 20,000.
No, it went up
Put it up by 20.
20%.
Oh. There you go. Okay, I just thought I found
Yeah.
$7,500, but I did
Yeah.
not. Sorry.
Snow and ice, yeah, what you're looking at in 2018, we spent 182,098. But the budget has always been 177,509.
okay. Thought I'd ask.
Yep. I can check that one with my luck.
And I don't want to play with the numbers, but there's nothing on the revenue side that we can reconsider.
It could be, but that's gonna take another month for us to really
All
know.
right.
Will we know anything more by Wednesday? On any outstanding
Not on the
items?
state aid.
You don't know wage and
Property
personnel.
taxes are gonna change.
Well, I might be able to pull together an ambulance revenue for March. I might be able to get you March figures, we can see how that's going. Because it should be, they should have had all of it in by today, or by yesterday, actually.
I don't know. I can't think of anything else.
I got nothing else in here.
If I can take your minds off the budget for a minute and go to the articles. There was one article for data email backup, and Caesar had asked for 5,100. He has let me know that he needs to increase the article to 5,200. The increase is due to shipping charges. He had a quote, didn't have shipping charges in it, so he has to increase that article. That's number 43.
So line 43, data email backup, the new requested amount is $5,200.
Make a motion to approve the $5,200 for line 43 data email backup, which is an increase of $100 from our vote last week.
Second.
Motion and second, any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we have the new Article 50 for the computers for the library in the amount of $2,345. That's the money that we just took out of their expense. So again, if the 2% isn't voted, we'll pass this over.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on line 50, computers, library, amount of $2,345.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 50, or line 50, for library computers for the amount of $2,345.
Second.
Motion and second, any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to look at the special town meeting articles that we have so far, or we have, when does that close, the special town meeting? So we currently have some special town meeting articles. That's the third page I gave you. Oh, yeah. The packet. The first is group insurance in the amount of $20,000. And I'm moving that we take $15,000 from veterans benefits and $5,000 from snow and ice to pay for that.
I'll make
Group
a,
insurance is the health insurance,
Yeah.
all the medical insurance for the town. We've had so many people come on that we're now finding ourselves in a deficit. It's in this packet.
I find it, oh, yeah, pardon me, I'll get there eventually,
I'll entertain a motion for special town meeting Article 1, group insurance, the amount of $20,000.
which, it's in this packet here?
It's in this same one as the summary one. The synopsis one. It's the last page.
Make a motion to recommend number 1. Is that Article 1 or number 1? Number 1,
Yeah.
group insurance for $20,000 with $15,000 coming from veterans benefits and $5,000 coming from snow and ice.
Second.
Motion and second, any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 2 is the law fund. The amount is $20,000 with the $20,000 coming from the snow and ice fund.
I'll make a motion to approve number 2 law for $20,000 with the full amount coming from snow and ice.
Second.
Motion and second, any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Article,
Sorry, that snow and ice just goes back to the general fund?
Yes.
Article 3, election and registration, the amount is $2,500 coming from heating oil.
I'll make a motion for number 3 election and registration for $2,500 to come from heating oil.
Second.
Motion and second, any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 4, PEG access, the amount is $3,430.23 coming from PEG access.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Second.
Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Line 5, Halifax Elementary School HVAC cafeteria.
That one's going to be a sum of money because unless she gets me, and we could hold this one off until Wednesday.
Yeah.
Christine's trying to get me a figure for that. She's hoping to get it tonight at the meeting. And they're going to take it from their vocational education tuition line. They think it's gonna be around 36,000, and they did have that left over in the vocational ed line this year. So,
Okay.
All right, so we'll hold on line 5. Article 5, Article 6, Historical Committee Electric, the amount is $1,500 coming from the heating oil line.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 7, data processing, the amount is $5,000.
I didn't get a chance to to find money. I believe that's gonna also be from heating oil, but let's wait until
Okay.
Wednesday and I'll get,
Okay, so we'll hold on Article 7.
and it's gonna be 5,000 that he's asking for.
Okay.
What was the increase?
What was it for, anyway?
5,000, right?
So, what is it for?
Data processing.
Basic,
Tell you
the
when I
re- the
wrote.
reason, and it may be 5,500, the reason we went over is back during the fall. I don't even remember, I think I've talked to you all about this. We were running into complications over the Council on Aging. We had poor connections between the internet and the computers in the network, and the consensus between you all and the board of selectmen was to just spend the money necessary to rectify the situation, and then if I needed money at the end of the year to come back and request it, and that's the result. Basically, the number, I can't remember the last time we had a problem there since it got fixed. But they were dealing with stuff on a daily basis there, so. I think everybody's much happier. Caesar is, the staff at the Council on Aging, along with Barbara, are happier, so it was worth doing.
Okay.
Any public participation or as may arise? So we're posted for Wednesday night. We'll see if we can make any further. And if we can't, regardless, we're gonna have to be okay with whatever the letter that's going to them.
Article 3 is Finance Committee's article. It's the elected officials' salary, and it includes,
Yes.
it includes the moderator, the selectman, the treasurer collector, the town clerk, the assessors, and the highway surveyor. It is customary to vote the same type of an increase you vote for wage and personnel for your elected officials, but we don't give it to the moderator, the selectman, or the board of assessors. So it's basically the town clerk, the treasurer collector, and the highway surveyor that you'd be voting an increase. You voted the 2% for, so for the elected officials, I would request that you vote them the same 2%.
We actually already factored that into that 55 whatever, the 4,000 for the elected officials was factored into
Is that what
that.
they
Right,
just
I
told
have
us?
given you
Yeah.
that
Right.
additional figure.
So I'll entertain a motion to recommend Article 4, the 2% increase for elected officials.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, we hope not.
I'll make a motion.
Save it all for
Motion to adjourn, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
9:54 PM, thank you, everybody.